Tycoon comes home early from work and freezes at what the cook did to the twins. William Parker never came home before 9 in the evening. That Thursday afternoon would be different when an important meeting was cancelled, and he decided to return to the mansion in Brentwood without telling anyone. As he crossed the entry hall, he heard a soft melody coming from the kitchen, a lullaby that made his heart race and his hands tremble as he clutched his Italian leather briefcase. It was the same song Emily used to sing during her pregnancy, caressing her belly while dreaming of the children yet to come. William walked slowly toward the sound, each step heavier than the last. When he reached the kitchen door, he froze completely. There stood Dorothy Wilson, the cook hired 3 months ago, bathing Ethan and Mason in the stainless steel industrial sink. The 10-month-old babies giggled and splashed their tiny hands in the warm water as she continued humming with a maternal smile on her face. "There we go, my angels. Let's wash away all this dirt," Dorothy murmured, gently rubbing mild soap on Ethan's back. The 52-year-old woman had curly hair tied in a low bun and wore the beige uniform all the household staff used. Her movements were sure and tender, as if she had done it 1,000 times before. Mason stretched his chubby little arms, trying to catch the soap bubbles floating in the air, while Ethan amused himself by spitting water from his mouth. William remained motionless in the doorway, watching a scene he never imagined he would witness. Since the twins were born 6 months ago, he had kept a calculated distance from anything related to their direct care. There had always been specialized nannies, nurses, and assistants for those tasks. Dorothy had been hired solely to cook, nothing more. "What a pretty song you're listening to, huh?" she continued, rinsing Mason's fair hair. "Your mama must have sung this to you a lot when you were still in her belly." The mention of Emily made William swallow hard. Dorothy noticed a shadow at the entrance and turned her head. When she saw him standing there, her eyes widened in shock, and she dropped the soap into the water. The noise made the babies burst into tears instantly. "Mr. William, I didn't expect you back so early," she stammered, scooping up the wet babies and trying to soothe them. "Let me explain." Tears began streaming down the businessman's face without him even realizing it. It had been months since he'd heard that song, and seeing it sung to his children by a woman who showed such affection unleashed an avalanche of emotions he had locked away. "Mrs. Melissa didn't come to work today," Dorothy continued quickly, rocking the babies. "She didn't call, didn't answer her phone. When I arrived this morning to make breakfast, I found the boys in the nursery crying hard. Their diapers had been dirty for hours, it seemed." William wiped his face with the back of his hand, trying to regain his composure. Melissa was the head nanny, a 40-year-old woman with international certifications in childcare whom he had hired through a high-end staffing agency. "And where are the assistants?" His voice came out hoarser than he intended. "Jennifer quit last week, remember? And Christine is on leave because her son is sick," Dorothy explained, drying Ethan with a plush towel. "I couldn't leave them like that, Mr. William. They were hungry, dirty. The room smelled awful." The businessman watched as the babies quickly calmed in her arms. Mason had stopped crying and was playing with the buttons on Dorothy's uniform, while Ethan rested his damp little head on her shoulder, puckering his lips as if about to fall asleep. "How long have you been doing this?" he asked, trying to process the situation. Dorothy hesitated before answering, clearly afraid of being fired. "Sir, I swear I don't neglect my work in the kitchen. I do everything right, all meals on time, but—" She took a deep breath. "Mrs. Melissa has been absent a lot these past few weeks. There's always an excuse. A headache, car trouble, a doctor's appointment." William felt a pang of anger mixed with guilt. How had he not noticed? He left so early in the morning and returned so late that he rarely crossed paths with the nannies. He blindly trusted the agency and the reports he received about the children's development. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps those of us just starting out. Now, back to the story. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" he asked. "I tried to speak with you a few times, but you're always busy on the phone traveling." Dorothy adjusted Ethan better in her arms. "And I thought maybe it was temporary, that she'd improve. I didn't want to cause trouble." William slowly stepped closer. For the first time in months, he truly looked at his sons. Ethan had blue eyes like Emily's, while Mason had inherited his own dark brown eyes. Both were chubby and healthy, with rosy cheeks and light hair that was starting to curl. "They're well cared for," he murmured more to himself. "I do the best I can, sir," Dorothy said softly. "I know it's not my job, but I couldn't bear to see them suffering." At that moment, Mason stretched his little arms toward William, as if recognizing him. The businessman hesitated for a few seconds before picking up his son. The child was heavier than he remembered and smelled of baby soap and the gentle perfume Dorothy wore. "Dada," Mason babbled, touching his father's face with his damp little hands. William felt his chest tighten. It was one of the first times he'd heard that word, and he didn't know if Mason was really calling him Dada or if it was just a random sound. Either way, it affected him in a way he hadn't expected. "He's already saying a few little things," Dorothy remarked proudly. "Ethan prefers Mama, but Mason keeps saying Dada all the time. I think they miss you." The guilt William had carried on his shoulders since the birth intensified. Emily had wanted those babies so badly. They'd planned every detail of the nursery, bought the best things, dreamed of their family's future. When she had complications during delivery and didn't make it, he felt as if a part of him had gone with her. In the first days, he could barely look at the twins without being reminded of his loss. He hired the best nannies, paid for the best doctors, bought the most expensive toys, but maintained an emotional barrier he thought necessary for his sanity. "Do you have children?" he asked, noticing how naturally Ethan nestled in Dorothy's arms. Her face saddened for a moment. "I did, sir," she replied simply. "It was a long time ago." William realized he'd touched on a delicate subject and didn't press further. Dorothy went back to rocking Ethan, who was almost asleep, while he continued holding Mason, who played with his expensive tie. "Where were you at bath time?" he wanted to know. "In the nanny's suite bathroom, but the baby tub had a clogged drain. The water wasn't draining properly," she explained. "And the boys were very dirty. They'd spilled oatmeal in their hair at lunch, and Mrs. Melissa left without bathing them." William's irritation grew. He was paying a fortune to that agency, and the nannies weren't even doing the basics. Dorothy continued, "I saw some videos online about how to bathe a baby in the kitchen sink. It's actually easier for someone with back problems like me, and the sink here is big and clean." William looked around the immaculate kitchen. Dorothy kept everything organized and sanitized. The state-of-the-art appliances gleamed, the marble countertops were spotless, and the air always smelled of cleanliness and home-cooked meals. "Sir, I know I shouldn't have taken this liberty," Dorothy said, misreading his silence. "If you want to fire me, I understand. I just ask that you find someone trustworthy to take care of them before I leave." "No one's getting fired," William replied firmly. "Quite the opposite. I want to know everything that's been happening." Dorothy seemed relieved but still hesitant. "Would you like me to fix something to eat?" "It's almost time for the boys' dinner," she offered. "First, show me how you've been managing all this," he said, referring to their care routine. For the next 30 minutes, William watched a full demonstration of how Dorothy had organized the twins' care in Melissa's absence. She had set up a small diaper-changing station on a low counter in the laundry area, using cushions and clean towels. She warmed their bottles in a pot of hot water since the bottle warmer had been broken for weeks. "I write everything down here." She showed him a worn little notebook she pulled from her uniform pocket. "When they ate, how many ounces, if they pooped, if they slept well, if they cried a lot. Everything that might be important for the doctor or whoever cares for them next." William flipped through the notebook, impressed by her dedication. There were detailed notes from the past 2 months, including observations about the children's moods, reactions to different foods, and small developmental milestones. Ethan tried to sit up by himself today, held it for a few seconds. He read aloud from one entry. Mason recognized the soap opera theme song and smiled. "They're so smart, sir," Dorothy said with genuine pride. "Ethan is calmer, likes to observe everything around him. Mason is more active, wants to grab and explore everything, but both are so affectionate." As if understanding they were the topic of conversation, The babies began babbling and reaching for each other. William sat them on the living room rug, watching them interact. They touched each other, laughed, competed for the adults' attention. Mrs. Melissa left them in the crib most of the time, Dorothy commented, sitting on the floor to be at their level. Said it was to avoid trouble, but babies need to explore. How else will they learn? She was right. William vaguely remembered Emily talking about the importance of early stimulation, interaction, and physical contact, things he had completely delegated to the staff, assuming they knew better than him. William's phone rang. It was Melissa. "Hi, Mr. William?" Her voice sounded artificially sweet. "Sorry I wasn't there today. I had a terrible migraine. I'll make it up tomorrow. Stay late." "Where were you yesterday? And the day before?" he asked directly. There was a pause. "Yesterday I told you I had a dentist appointment, sir, and the day before I worked as usual." "Dorothy said you didn't come the day before either." Another pause, longer this time. "Oh, well, I had to leave early because of a family issue, but I told Jennifer that—" "Jennifer quit a week ago," William interrupted. The silence on the other end stretched for several seconds. "Sir, I can explain better in person. I'll come by early tomorrow and we'll talk." Melissa tried to backtrack. "No need, you're fired." William hung up before she could respond. Dorothy had heard the entire conversation while playing with the twins, but hid it, pretending to be focused on making funny faces to make them laugh. "Dorothy," he called her. "Yes, sir?" "Starting today, you'll take care of the boys as well. I'll adjust your salary and hire someone to help in the kitchen." Her eyes filled with tears. "Mr. William, are you sure? I don't have a degree. I never took a nanny course." "You have something more important than a degree," he said, watching as Ethan had crawled to her feet and was trying to climb into her lap. "You love them." That night, for the first time in months, William didn't work late. He stayed in the living room, watching Dorothy give the twins their last bottle of the day, observing how she talked to them, how they responded to the sound of her voice, how safe and happy they seemed. When she put them to sleep, he followed her to the nursery. The room was spotless, with their little clothes folded, toys organized, and a soft scent of lavender in the air. "Good night, my angels," Dorothy whispered, kissing each baby's forehead. "Sleep tight, and tomorrow we'll play some more." She tiptoed out of the room, but William stayed there a few minutes longer, watching his children sleep. Ethan sucked his thumb, while Mason slept on his stomach, his little bottom in the air. They were beautiful, perfect, and he had missed so many important moments because of his own emotional cowardice. In the hallway, he found Dorothy putting away the last few things. "Dorothy, can I ask you a personal question?" "Of course, sir." "You mentioned you had a son. What happened?" She stopped folding the little towels and sighed. "I lost my Thomas when he was 2, sir. It's been 20 years now." Her voice grew quieter. "It was meningitis. Back then, they didn't have the treatments they do today. It happened so fast." William felt his stomach drop. "I'm so sorry." "Thank you, sir. That's why I couldn't bear to see your boys neglected. They reminded me so much of my Thomas at that age." She smiled sadly. "He was clever and affectionate too. Loved water just like the twins. And his father? My husband couldn't handle the loss. We separated soon after Dorothy finished putting things away. Everyone grieves in their own way. I threw myself into work, taking care of other people's homes, helping raise other children. He lost himself in drink. In that moment, William understood that Dorothy's dedication to Ethan and Mason wasn't just professional. It was her way of processing her own loss, finding purpose and healing through care. "Thank you," he said simply. "For what, sir?" "For saving my children. And maybe for saving me too." The next morning, William woke earlier than usual. He went downstairs for coffee and found Dorothy in the kitchen, already preparing the twins' oatmeal. They were in their high chairs, babbling and clapping. "Daddy!" Mason shouted when he saw him stretching out his arms. William felt his heart race. This time, he was sure his son was really calling him. He picked him up, and Mason immediately started tugging at his hair, laughing. "He always wakes up in a good mood," Dorothy remarked, stirring the oatmeal. "Ethan's sleepier, aren't you, sweetheart?" Ethan, still groggy, pouted and rubbed his little eyes with his fists. "What time did they wake up?" William asked. 6:30 as usual. They had their milk, played a little, and now they're having breakfast. She spooned a small portion of oatmeal into the baby bowl. "Would you like to try feeding them?" William hesitated. He'd never fed his children before. "I don't know how." "It's easy, sir. Come here." Dorothy guided him patiently. She showed him how to hold the little spoon, how to wait for Ethan to open his mouth, how to wipe what dribbled down his chin. At first, more porridge ended up on the baby's cheeks than in his mouth, but little by little, William got the hang of it. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, back to the story. "Well done, sir." "He likes it," Dorothy encouraged. "Look how he opens his little mouth when he sees the spoon coming." It was true, Ethan was cooperating, and even Mason in Dorothy's arms watched the scene as if approving. When William glanced at his watch, he realized it was almost 9 o'clock. Normally, he'd have been at the office for an hour by then. "I need to go to work," he said, but without his usual urgency. "The boys will miss you," Dorothy remarked. "Now that you've started being more involved, they'll want this every day." The comment lingered in William's mind all morning. During his first meeting of the day, he caught himself thinking about how Ethan had smiled when he got the spoonful right. In the middle of a video call with international investors, he remembered the way Mason tugged at his hair. In the afternoon, he received a message from Dorothy with a photo of the twins playing in the garden. Ethan was sitting on the grass, holding a colorful toy while Mason crawled toward a butterfly. The caption read, "Their first time in the garden. They loved it." William smiled at the photo. He'd never seen his children outdoors before. The mansion had a huge garden with fruit trees, sprawling lawns, and even a small playground he'd had installed during Emily's pregnancy. But the previous nannies had preferred keeping the children inside, citing safety and hygiene concerns. At 5 in the evening, something unprecedented happened. William cancelled his last appointments and decided to go home early. When he arrived, he was deeply moved by the scene before him. Dorothy was in the garden, sitting on a blanket spread over the grass, with both babies playing around her. Ethan was trying to eat leaves, while Mason inspected a small watering can. The afternoon sun cast a golden glow over the scene. "Daddy!" Mason was the first to spot him and quickly crawled toward him. William sat on the blanket and soon had both boys climbing onto his lap, tugging at his tie, touching his face, vying for his attention with little squeals of joy. "They've been waiting for you," Dorothy said. Every time they heard a car on the street, they looked toward the entrance. "How did you know I'd come home early?" "I didn't, but mothers sense these things," she replied naturally, only seeming to realize what she'd said afterward. "I mean, anyone who cares for children develops that intuition." William didn't correct the slip. In a way, Dorothy was filling a maternal role for his sons, and that no longer bothered him. On the contrary, it comforted him to know they had that kind, loving, feminine presence. That night, he took part in the entire bedtime routine. He helped with bath time, putting on their pajamas and giving them their last bottle. When Dorothy sang the lullaby that had moved him so deeply the day before, he stayed in the room, listening. "Is this song special?" she asked when she finished. "It was Emily's favorite," he replied simply. "She must be happy seeing you care for the boys," Dorothy said gently. In the days that followed, William established a new routine. He woke up earlier to have breakfast with the twins, came home for lunch whenever possible, and left work before 7. Dorothy taught him how to change diapers, prepare bottles, and recognize the different types of cries. "This one's a hungry cry," she explained when Mason started fussing. "And this one's tired," when Ethan rubbed his eyes and grew cranky. William discovered that Ethan was more observant and enjoyed classical music, while Mason was more active and preferred noisy toys. Both loved when he did funny voices while reading bedtime stories. A week after the kitchen incident, William received an unexpected call from the nanny agency. "Mr. Parker, I understand there was a misunderstanding with Melissa." The coordinator's pompous voice tried to sound conciliatory. We'd like to send a replacement, someone even better with international experience and specialization in early childhood development." "That won't be necessary," William replied curtly. "Sir, with all due respect, a cook isn't qualified to care for children from high-standard families. Our professionals are specifically trained to skip work and leave babies dirty and hungry," he interrupted. "Sir, that was an isolated incident. Melissa has already been warned and—" "Melissa was fired, and I won't be needing the agency's services anymore." William hung up and blocked the number. That same afternoon, he sought out a lawyer to formalize Dorothy's new role in the family. She would be registered as the twins' official caregiver with a fair salary and full labor rights. When he told her the decision, Dorothy cried. "Sir, I don't know how to thank you," she sobbed. "You're giving me a chance I never thought I'd have in life." "You're the one giving my family a chance," he corrected. "A chance for us to really be a family." The first big test of this new dynamic came 2 weeks later, when Ethan developed a high fever in the middle of the night. William woke to desperate crying and found Dorothy already in the nursery, holding the baby and checking his temperature. 101.3, she said worriedly. "It started an hour ago. I gave him a lukewarm bath and put on lighter clothes, but it hasn't gone down." Panic gripped William. Ethan was flushed, crying, clearly uncomfortable. "Let's go to the hospital," he said, already grabbing the car keys. "Easy, sir. Fevers in babies are normal, part of their immune system developing," Dorothy said calmly, though she was also concerned. "Let's call the pediatrician first, see what he says." Dr. Carter, the twins' pediatrician, answered even though it was 3 in the morning. "Mr. Parker, if there are no other symptoms besides the fever and the child is responsive and crying, it's better to monitor at home for a few hours," he advised. "Give him the fever reducer at the dosage I prescribed. Keep him hydrated and call me if it goes above 102 or if vomiting, diarrhea or rashes appear." William followed the instructions but couldn't sleep. He spent the whole night in the nursery with Dorothy, taking turns caring for Ethan. She prepared weak chamomile tea to help him relax, placed cool compresses on his forehead, and constantly rocked him. "My Thomas also had high fevers when he was teething," she commented in the early hours. "It's one of the hardest things for a mother, seeing her child in pain and only being able to offer comfort." "How do you stay so calm?" William asked. His hands shook every time he picked Ethan up. "Experience, sir, and faith. Children are stronger than we think," she said with a tired smile. "Besides, if I panic, he'll sense it and get even more scared." By morning, the fever had gone down, and Ethan was smiling again. Dr. Carter came for a home visit and confirmed everything was fine, likely just the start of his first teeth coming in. "Mr. Parker, may I congratulate you?" the doctor said on his way out. "It's rare to see fathers so involved in their children's care, especially executive men. Your boys are developing excellently, well above average for their age." William felt proud and grateful. Dorothy had been crucial the night before, keeping calm when he panicked, knowing exactly what to do at every moment. That afternoon, while Ethan slept, recovering from the early morning episode, Mason played on William's lap, and Dorothy prepared a light soup. "Dorothy, can I ask you something?" he said. "You always can, sir." "Why did you never try to have other children? After Thomas?" She stopped stirring the soup and grew thoughtful for a moment. "I tried, sir. For a few years, my ex-husband and I tried. But it didn't happen. Then when we separated, I sort of gave up on the idea." She went back to stirring the pot. "I thought maybe it just wasn't meant to be, but now, taking care of the twins, I feel like God gave me a second chance to be a mother, even if it's not official." William understood that Dorothy's bond with Ethan and Mason went far beyond professional. She was pouring into them all the motherhood she hadn't been able to fully experience with her own son. "The boys are lucky to have you," he said sincerely. "We're all lucky to be together," she corrected. "You've changed a lot these past few weeks, Mr. William. You're more present, more affectionate. They feel the difference." It was true. William felt different too. The rigidity he'd carried since losing Emily was gradually softening. The twins were filling a space in his heart he thought was permanently closed. A few nights later, something happened that changed everything for good. William woke to the sound of voices coming from downstairs. It was nearly 2 in the morning. He went down to investigate and found the kitchen light on. Dorothy was sitting at the table with books and notebooks spread out, wearing reading glasses he'd never seen before. "Dorothy, what time is it?" he asked, confused. She startled and quickly tried to hide the materials. "Mr. William, I'm sorry, I didn't wake you, did I? I'll put this away right now and—" "What is all this?" He stepped closer, curious. "Nothing important, sir. Just some things I was reading," she replied evasively. William looked closer. There were books on child development, teaching guides, math and English exercises. "Are you studying?" Dorothy sighed, realizing there was no point hiding it. "I'm trying to get my GED, sir," she admitted, embarrassed. "I dropped out very young when I married at 16. I always wanted to go back, but I never had the courage." "And now you do?" "It's just—" She hesitated. "The twins will grow up, won't they? One day they'll ask hard questions. They'll need help with homework. I want to be able to teach them, to be a good example." William was moved by her dedication. "Why hide this? It's a beautiful thing." "I'm ashamed, sir. A 50-year-old woman going back to school." She lowered her head. "And I'm afraid you'll think I'll neglect my work." "Dorothy, look at me." William pulled out a chair and sat beside her. "You're one of the smartest, most dedicated people I know. If you want to study, I'll help." "How do you mean, sir?" "I'll hire a private tutor to come here. You can study whenever works best, when the boys are asleep, and when they grow up, they'll be so proud of the woman who raised them." Dorothy's eyes filled with tears. "Mr. William, I don't deserve such kindness." "You do. More than anyone I know." He flipped through one of her books. "In fact, I have a proposal. How about you not just get your GED, but take a teaching course or child psychology?" "Sir, that's too expensive, too complicated. Leave it to me. You have a natural talent for this, and with formal education, you'll be even better." William smiled. "Imagine when the boys grow up and find out the woman who took care of them as babies graduated from college." Dorothy cried with emotion. William realized in that moment that investing in her future was also investing in his children's future. In the following months, the household routine changed completely. Dorothy studied 2 hours a day with a private tutor, while William took on more responsibilities in caring for the twins. He learned to bathe them alone, put them to sleep, and play with them in the garden. Ethan began to crawl, always toward Dorothy's books. Mason preferred to stand, holding onto the furniture. Both clearly said Dada and Mama, calling William Dada and Dorothy Mama. "They don't know the difference," Dorothy tried to correct. "I'm not your mother, I'm Dorothy." But the babies insisted. To them, the woman who fed them, bathed them, comforted them when they cried, and made them laugh, was naturally Mama. William no longer tried to correct them. Dorothy had become, in every practical way, the mother they knew. And that didn't diminish Emily's memory. On the contrary, it honored what she would have wanted for her children. The twins' first birthday approached, and William's family pressured him to throw a big party at the most exclusive club in New York. "William, you need to introduce these children to society," his mother, Mrs. Elizabeth, insisted. "They're the Parker heirs. They can't grow up hidden away." "They're not hidden, Mother. They're being raised with love and attention." "By a cook, William." Her voice dripped with disapproval. "Emily would be horrified seeing you hand over her children's upbringing to an uneducated maid. Dorothy is studying, and taking care of the children isn't just her responsibility. You need to hire a European nanny, someone with refined education who can teach them languages and manners," Mrs. Elizabeth continued. "The boys will inherit an empire. They need the proper upbringing." William grew frustrated with the conversation. His family had never truly cared about the twins when they were just crying babies needing basic care. Now that they were older and more interactive, suddenly everyone had an opinion on how they should be raised. The day before the birthday, an incident occurred that permanently changed William's perspective. He came home and found Dorothy crying in the kitchen while the twins played in the playpen in the living room. "What happened?" he asked worriedly. "It's nothing, sir." She tried to hide it, wiping her face with her apron. "Dorothy, tell me." She took a deep breath before speaking. "Your mother came by this afternoon. She said she wanted to meet the boys, that she had come to visit her grandsons. She began slowly. I thought it was sweet. I was happy your family wanted to be more involved. William already sensed the story wouldn't end well. She was affectionate with them at first, held them, played a little. But then, Dorothy hesitated. Please go on. She started asking me questions. Where I had studied, what courses I'd taken, if I spoke English. When I told her I was getting my GED now, she laughed, sir. Dorothy's voice trembled. She said it was absurd for you to leave the Parker heirs in the hands of an illiterate woman. William felt anger rising. Ethan started crying because he was hungry, and when I went to warm the bottle, she said, children of our class don't drink bottles warmed in a pot, that there's special equipment for that, Dorothy continued. So I explained that the bottle warmer had broken and you were going to buy a new one, but that this way worked fine too. What else did she say? That the boys were speaking wrong because I speak wrong. They should be learning English and French by now, not broken Portuguese, Dorothy sobbed. She asked if I at least knew how to properly change a diaper, if I was familiar with the vitamins children need to take. William was furious but tried to stay calm so as not to scare Dorothy even more. Mason stretched his little arms out to me and yelled, Mama, like he always does, she continued. Your mother got angry, said I was teaching them wrong, that I'm not their mother, that I need to know my place. Dorothy, she said you're making a mistake treating me like family, that I'm just an employee and should act like one. Tears streamed down her face. She asked if I was taking advantage of the situation to get money, if I had any interests beyond the job. William couldn't take it anymore. He went up to his mother's room, where she was resting after the visit. Mom, I need to talk to you. Hi, my son. I came to see the babies today. They're beautiful. They look just like you. Mrs. Elizabeth smiled, not noticing the tension in her son's expression. What did you say to Dorothy? Oh, I had a little chat with her. I thought it was important to clarify her role here, she replied casually. William, you need to be careful. That woman is acting like she owns the place, making those boys call her mom. That's dangerous. Dangerous how? Dangerous. She could be taking advantage of your vulnerability. A widowed man, wealthy, with small children. It's a goldmine for a gold digger, Mrs. Elizabeth spoke as if it were obvious. You need to hire a professional nanny and put her back in her place. William took a deep breath before responding. Mom, you're going to listen to me carefully. Dorothy Wilson is the best thing that's happened to this family in months. She saved my children when I was lost in my own grief. She loves them as if they were hers, and they love her back. William, you can't let yourself be manipulated by... You will no longer interfere in how I raise my children, he interrupted firmly. If you want to be part of your grandchildren's lives, you'll have to accept and respect the woman raising them. But William... No buts, Mom. Dorothy is part of this family now, and anyone who can't accept that isn't welcome here. William went back downstairs to the kitchen. Dorothy was preparing dinner for the twins, but still looked shaken. Dorothy, I'm sorry about what happened today, he said. You don't need to apologize, sir. Your mother just wants what's best for the boys. She tried to be diplomatic. No, she was wrong, completely wrong. William sat at the kitchen table. I want you to know something. You're their mother in every way that matters, and they're lucky to have someone like you. Dorothy's eyes filled with tears again, but this time with gratitude. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps those of us just starting out. Now, continuing. And about the birthday, William went on. I want to throw a party here at home in the garden. Just the three of us and the boys. No society, no pressure. A real family celebration. On the day of Ethan and Mason's first birthday, the morning dawned sunny. Dorothy had decorated the garden with blue and yellow balloons, prepared a small cake for each baby to try, and set up a table with all the dishes she knew they loved. William woke up early and found the twins already awake in the nursery, chatting to each other in that private language only they understood. When they saw him, both started shouting, "Dada! Dada!" and reaching out their arms. Good morning, birthday boys, he said, scooping them both up. 1 year old today, huh? Look how big you've gotten. Dorothy entered the room carrying two special outfits she had bought for the occasion, little blue overalls with suspenders and bow ties. "They're going to look adorable," she said, starting to dress Ethan. "They look like two little gentlemen." During the party, William noticed how that simplicity was infinitely more meaningful than any lavish event his family could have organized. Ethan and Mason freely explored the garden, ate cake with their hands, and laughed at the games Dorothy made up. When it was time to sing Happy Birthday, the three adults exchanged emotional glances. It was the first birthday the twins were celebrating consciously, and also the first one William fully participated in as a present father. "Happy birthday to you on this special day," Dorothy began singing in a sweet voice. The babies clapped and laughed, not quite understanding what was happening but feeling the joy of the moment. That night, after putting the twins to bed, William and Dorothy stayed in the garden, cleaning up the remnants of the party. "It was a perfect day," he remarked. "Yes, it was," she smiled, folding the used napkins. "Will they remember this when they grow up?" "Maybe not consciously, but they'll remember the love," William reflected. "That's what matters, right? That they feel they were loved from the very beginning." Dorothy nodded, putting the toys in a basket. "Mr. William, can I tell you something?" "Always." "Thank you for giving me the chance to experience all this," she said, emotional. "When I lost my Thomas, I thought I'd never have this again, caring for little children, witnessing their first steps, their first words. You gave that back to me." "And you gave me my children back," he replied. "I was so lost in grief that I almost missed their best moments." By then, Ethan and Mason were already taking their first steps, holding onto furniture and walking between the arms of adults. Dorothy was in her final year of night school and had enrolled in college for early childhood education. William had restructured his work schedule to be more present at home. The family dynamic was settled and working perfectly until one day, something unexpected happened. William was in his office when he got a call from Dorothy, clearly nervous. "Mr. William, there's a woman here who says she's from Child Protective Services. She wants to talk to me about the boys," she said quietly. "What do you mean?" "She said she received an anonymous report about child neglect. She wants to see the boys, ask questions." Dorothy was clearly frightened. "Sir, I swear I didn't do anything wrong." William felt his blood boil. He was sure who was behind that report. "Stay calm, Dorothy. Don't talk to her alone. Tell her I'm on my way, and she can wait," he instructed. "And take the boys to the garden, let them play naturally." Within 15 minutes, William was home. The social worker, a young woman with a clipboard and a bureaucratic air, waited in the living room. "Mr. Parker, I'm Rebecca Smith from Child Protective Services. We received a report about possible neglect of minors in this household," she said formally. "What kind of report?" William asked directly. "Allegations that two one-year-old children are being improperly cared for by an unqualified person, under conditions that may hinder their development," she read from her notes. "And who made this report?" "It's anonymous, sir, but we're obligated to investigate." Rebecca spent the next 2 hours conducting a full assessment of the home and the twins' routine. She inspected the nursery, examined the toys, checked the pantry, and observed the interaction between the children and adults. Ethan and Mason were especially sociable that day. They showed all their progress. They walked holding the adults' hands, said the words they knew, laughed, and played naturally. "May I see the caregiver's documentation?" Rebecca asked. William presented all of Dorothy's papers, including proof that she was studying and the first aid and child development courses she had taken in recent months, and the children's medical records. He showed their up-to-date vaccination cards, reports from regular pediatric checkups, and the developmental assessments done monthly. Rebecca asked Dorothy several questions about the baby's routine, their food preferences, sleep schedules, and developmental milestones. Dorothy answered everything confidently, showing deep knowledge of every detail of the twins' lives. "May I ask about your education?" the social worker inquired. "I'm finishing my GED and will start studying education next year," Dorothy replied proudly. "And your previous experience with children?" "I had a son I lost very young. After that, I always worked taking care of homes, helping raise other people's children," she explained simply. By the end of the evaluation, Rebecca was visibly impressed. "Mr. Parker, Your children are clearly well cared for, healthy, and developing normally, she concluded. There's no sign of neglect or mistreatment. On the contrary, I rarely see children so well looked after. So the complaint was false? It seems so. Unfortunately, sometimes we get complaints motivated by personal issues, not real concern for the children. Rebecca put the papers away. I'll file the case as unfounded. After the social worker left, William confronted his mother over the phone. Did you make this complaint? He asked bluntly. William, I just wanted competent professionals to assess the situation, Mrs. Elizabeth tried to justify. That woman isn't qualified to... Mom, you went too far, he interrupted, furious. You scared Dorothy terribly, traumatized the kids with strangers being here, all because of stubbornness and prejudice. I just want what's best for my grandchildren. Then learn to respect who takes care of them, William said firmly. This was the last time you interfere like this. Next attempt, you won't set foot here again. The episode, though frightening, ended up strengthening the bond between William and Dorothy even more. She realized he would truly defend her against any attack, and he saw how she remained dignified and composed under pressure. In the following months, the twins began speaking more words, running around the garden, and showing increasingly distinct personalities. Ethan was more introspective, enjoying picture books and calm music. Mason was more adventurous, always trying to climb furniture and explore new places. Dorothy passed her college entrance exam for education and began studying 3 nights a week at a nearby university. William adjusted his schedule to stay with the boys on those nights and discovered he loved these moments alone with his sons. One evening, while bathing the twins, Ethan looked directly at him and said clearly, "Dada, where Mama?" It was the first time one of them had asked for Dorothy when she wasn't there. William felt a sweet pang in his chest. "Mama went to study, but she'll be back soon," he replied naturally. "Mama school?" Mason asked too. "Yes, Mama school, just like you'll go when you're bigger." The boys seemed satisfied with the explanation and went back to playing with their rubber ducks. When Dorothy returned from class around 10 that night, she found William in the living room reading a book while the babies slept. "How was it?" he asked. "Hard, but good," she smiled tiredly. Today was about cognitive development in early childhood. Many things I already knew in practice, but it's interesting to understand the theory behind it. The boys asked about you during bath time. "Really?" Her eyes sparkled. "What did they say?" Ethan asked. "Where, Mama?" And Mason wanted to know if you were at school. Dorothy was moved. For her, hearing that the children looked for her when she wasn't around was the greatest proof that she had formed a real bond with them. The twins' second birthday came with a surprise. William decided to throw a bigger party, but not in the style his family expected. He transformed the garden into a small playground with inflatable toys, a ball pit, and various activities for young children. He invited not only family but also other kids from the neighborhood, Dorothy's college classmates who had children, and even some employees from his company who were parents. "I want them to grow up knowing children from all social backgrounds," he explained to Dorothy. "To learn early on that a person's worth isn't measured by their bank account." The party was a success. Ethan and Mason played with kids of all ages, shared toys, and laughed at the organized games. Mrs. Elizabeth was there, more restrained after past incidents, and even she admitted her grandchildren seemed happy and well-adjusted. During the party, one of Dorothy's college classmates pulled her aside. "Dorothy, you have no idea how inspiring it is to see you start over like this," said Margaret, a 40-year-old woman who had also returned to school. "Starting college at 50, raising these beautiful children, having your boss's support. You're an example for all of us." "I'm the lucky one, Margaret. Mr. William is a special person." "It's not just luck, sweetheart. You earned this with hard work and dedication." Margaret smiled. "Anyone can see these children are deeply loved." It was true. Ethan and Mason had grown into confident, affectionate, sociable kids. They spoke well for their age, showed above-average intelligence, and most importantly, had a solid emotional foundation. That night, after all the guests left, the 3 of them stayed in the garden cleaning up. The twins, tired but happy, played with leftover balloons. "It was a beautiful party," Dorothy remarked. "They'll remember this for the rest of their lives." "I hope so," William picked up plastic cups. I want them to have happy childhood memories. Papa, Mama. Mason came running with a balloon in hand, tripped and fell on the grass. Instead of crying, he laughed and rolled around. Ethan, seeing his brother having fun, also threw himself on the grass and started rolling. Soon, both were covered in dirt but laughing joyfully. Let them be, William said when Dorothy went to clean them up. They have plenty of time to stay clean. Now's the time to play. He sat on the grass himself and was soon climbed on by both boys, who tugged at his shirt, scrambled onto his back, and vied for his attention with happy squeals. Dorothy watched with a full heart. That image, William playing carefree with the twins in the garden all covered in dirt and laughing, was so different from the rigid, distant man she had met a year and a half earlier. Mama, come! Ethan stretched his little arms toward her. Dorothy joined the fun, and soon all four were rolling in the grass, tickling each other. Getting covered in dry leaves, the boys tossed in the air. When they finally tired out, they lay back, looking at the starry sky. The twins dozed in the adults' laps. William, Dorothy said softly, can I tell you something? Of course. Thank you for letting me be their mother, she whispered. I know biologically I'm not, but in my heart, you are their mother, Dorothy. In every way that matters, he answered with certainty. Emily would be happy knowing they have you. You think so? I'm sure. She wanted them to be loved, cared for, happy. And that's exactly what you give them every day. That night they carried the sleeping boys to the nursery and put them to bed still in their dirt-stained clothes. For once the mess didn't matter. What mattered was the genuine happiness they had experienced. By the twins' third year, their routine was completely established. Dorothy had graduated with honors in education and started a postgraduate degree in educational psychology. William had made several changes at his company to have more flexible hours. Ethan and Mason spoke in full sentences, ran all over the house, asked questions about everything, and clearly saw Dorothy as their mother and William as their father. The family dynamic worked perfectly. Then something no one expected happened. One Saturday morning, as the children played in the yard, an unexpected visitor arrived. A young, elegant woman accompanied by a man in a suit. Mr. Parker, she introduced herself when William opened the door. My name is Patricia Miller. I'm an attorney. This is Dr. Andrew Lewis, a psychologist. We need to talk about Ethan and Mason. William felt a chill down his spine. What's this about? May I come in? It's a delicate matter. They settled in the living room. Dorothy had noticed the visitors and stayed close, with the boys playing beside her. Mr. Parker, I represent the interests of the Anderson family. The attorney began formally. I've never heard of that family. Emily Anderson was the only child of Jonathan and Catherine Anderson, she explained, the maternal grandparents of Ethan and Mason. William froze. Emily had lost her parents when she was young, or at least that's what she had always said. I don't understand. Emily was an orphan. No, sir. There was a family estrangement when she married you, but her parents always hoped for reconciliation, the attorney continued. Unfortunately, she passed before that could happen. And what do you want? The Andersons have just learned of their grandchildren's existence. They want to meet them and be part of their lives. She paused. And they question whether the children are receiving proper care. William felt his blood boil again. What do you mean, they question? The psychologist spoke for the first time. Mr. Parker, we understand the children are being cared for by someone outside the family while you work. The grandparents would like to assess whether it might be better for them to be raised by blood relatives. Are you suggesting I don't take good care of my children? Not exactly, the attorney interjected. But the grandparents have the means to provide a more traditional upbringing. Elite private schools, educational travel, exposure to children of the same social standing. Dorothy, listening to the conversation, began to tremble. She knew legally she had no rights over the children she had raised since infancy. We'd like to propose shared custody, the attorney continued. The boys would spend part of their time with you and part with their grandparents. It would benefit everyone. And if I refuse? Well, We have documentation that could call into question some of your decisions regarding the children's care. She opened a folder. For example, the fact that they were left in the care of someone without formal training in early childhood education for years. Dorothy is qualified. She's an educator. But she wasn't when she started caring for them, correct? The psychologist cut in. And there are records of complaints filed with Child Protective Services. William realized they were very well informed. Someone had thoroughly investigated their family life. Look here, he said, standing up. I don't know what game you're playing, but my children are well cared for, happy, healthy, and loved. I won't accept blackmail. It's not blackmail, Mr. Parker. It's a civilized proposal. The lawyer maintained a professional tone. The grandparents only want what's best for the children. At that moment, Ethan came running into the room. Daddy! Mommy! Look! He showed a drawing he had made in the garden with crayons. When he saw strangers in the room, he grew shy and hid behind Dorothy's legs. Mason soon followed, curious but also wary. Are these them? The psychologist asked quietly. Yes, Ethan and Mason, the lawyer confirmed, observing the children. You can go play outside, Dorothy said gently to the boys. I'll join you soon. No, Mummy, stay here, Ethan said, clinging to her skirt. Who are these people? Mason asked, pointing at the visitors. They're here to talk to Daddy, Dorothy explained patiently. You don't need to be afraid. The psychologist watched the interaction closely. What do they call you? He asked. Mommy, William answered defensively. Is that a problem? It's interesting. Shows a strong emotional bond. He noted something on a pad. The lawyer pressed on. Mr. Parker, the grandparents would like to meet the children. Could we arrange a visit? William looked at Dorothy, who was clearly distressed, and at the twins, who seemed confused by the tension in the air. I'll think about it, he said finally. We'll need an answer by Friday. The lawyer stood up. After that, we may have to take more serious legal action. After they left, William and Dorothy sat in silence for a long time. The boys had gone back to the garden, but the atmosphere in the house had completely changed. Can they take the boys from me? Dorothy asked, her voice trembling. I don't know, William answered honestly. I need to talk to my lawyer. William, if it's better for the boys... Don't say that, he interrupted. Ethan and Mason are happy here with us. That's all that matters. But both knew the situation was more complicated than that. The law didn't always recognize non-biological emotional bonds, especially when blood relatives showed up with resources and lawyers. That night, after putting the twins to bed, William called his personal lawyer. Dr. Franklin, I need your help urgently, he explained the whole situation. William, this is delicate, the lawyer was honest. Grandparents have rights over grandchildren, especially if they can prove they can offer better conditions. Better conditions? My children have everything they need. They'll argue they can provide elite education, refined culture, privileged social connections, Dr. Franklin explained. And the fact that you left the children with an employee for years could be used against you. Dorothy isn't just an employee, she's their mother. But legally, she's nothing. No custody, no adoption, no legal tie, the lawyer was blunt. If these grandparents really sue, she could be separated from the children. William felt the ground disappear beneath him. What can I do? First, find out if they're really the grandparents. Did Emily ever mention having living parents? Dr. Franklin asked. Never. She always said she was an orphan since she was 20. Then there might have been a deep rift. Investigate that. If you can prove Emily didn't want contact with them, you can use it as an argument, the lawyer continued. Second, document everything about the children's development. Medical, psychological, educational reports. Prove they're excellently cared for. And Dorothy. That's the hardest part. You need to formalize her situation somehow. How? The only way to give her legal rights over the children would be for the two of you to get married, Dr. Franklin said. But I know it's complicated. After the conversation, William paced around the house all night. The lawyer's suggestion echoed in his mind. Marriage. He had never thought about it, not in a romantic way. Dorothy was his partner in raising the kids, his friend, someone he trusted completely. But marriage implied other feelings, other expectations. The next morning, he found Dorothy in the kitchen, making breakfast for the boys. She had deep, dark circles under her eyes. Clearly, she hadn't slept well. "Dorothy, I spoke with my lawyer yesterday." She stopped stirring the oatmeal and looked at him apprehensively. "What did he say?" William explained the entire conversation, including the possible defense strategies. When he got to the part about marriage, he hesitated. "He suggested a way to give you legal rights over the children." "How?" "Civil marriage," he said quickly, as if he wanted to get the words out before he regretted them. Dorothy dropped the spoon into the pot. "William, I'm not asking you to marry me out of romantic love," he clarified immediately. "It would be practical to protect our family, to make sure you can legally remain their mother." Dorothy was silent for a long time. "You'd do that? For me? For the boys?" "I'd do anything for the boys. And for you too," he answered honestly. "You're the most important person in their lives, and in mine. If getting married is what keeps our family together, then that's what we'll do." "But William, marriage is a serious thing, even if it's just on paper." "It wouldn't just be on paper, it would be official recognition of what we already are, a family." He stepped closer to her. "Dorothy, you're already my partner in everything that matters. We've raised these boys together, shared responsibilities, made decisions together. A signed paper won't change our relationship, it'll just make it legal." Dorothy began to cry. "I don't want you to feel obligated." "I don't feel obligated, I feel privileged." William took her hands. "Privileged to have found someone like you who saved my family when I needed it most. What if later you want to marry for real, for love, with someone else?" "Dorothy, look at me." He cupped her face. "There's no one more important in my life than you and the boys. If that's not love, I don't know what is." At that moment, Ethan and Mason appeared in the kitchen, still in their pajamas, looking for breakfast. "Daddy, why's Mommy crying?" Ethan asked worriedly. "Is Mommy sad?" Mason stepped closer and gently touched Dorothy's arm. "No, my loves. Mommy's happy," she said, wiping her tears and crouching to their level. "Very happy." "Why?" Ethan insisted. Dorothy looked at William, who nodded. "Because Daddy and Mommy are going to stay together forever, taking care of you," she explained simply. "Forever for real?" Mason asked. "Forever," William confirmed, bending down too. "The four of us are a family, and family stays together." The boys didn't fully understand the meaning of the conversation, but they felt the positive emotion and began jumping with joy, hugging both adults. That same morning, William called his lawyer back. "Dr. Franklin, I want to speed up the civil marriage process as quickly as possible." "Excellent decision, William. I'll arrange all the paperwork," the lawyer replied. "And the grandparents?" "I'll allow them to meet the children, but in my home with me present and only for a short time," William decided. "If they're really Emily's family, the boys have a right to know them, but nothing more than that." "Very sensible. It shows goodwill on your part, which could help if the case goes to court." The civil wedding was scheduled for the following week, with only the necessary witnesses. Dorothy was nervous but determined. William felt a peace he hadn't experienced in years. The night before the wedding, they talked about how their new dynamic would work. "Nothing will change in our routine," William assured her. "You'll keep your room, your privacy. We'll just be officially married. And if people ask, your family, friends, we'll tell the truth, that we married to protect our children and our family," he smiled. "Anyone who has a problem with that, it's their problem, not ours." The wedding took place on a Thursday morning at the courthouse. Dorothy wore a simple, elegant navy blue dress. William wore a dark suit. The witnesses were Dr. Franklin and Margaret, Dorothy's college friend. Ethan and Mason were there, running around the courthouse, not fully understanding what was happening, but sensing it was important. When the judge asked if they accepted each other as spouses, both answered yes with conviction. It wasn't the passionate yes of romantic couples, but a yes of commitment, partnership, family. At the ring exchange, William had chosen simple white gold bands. "With this ring, I promise to be your partner in raising our children, building our family, and facing any challenges that may come," he said, sliding the ring onto her finger. With this ring, I promise to love and care for our boys, to be your companion in every moment and to honor the family we've built together, she replied, placing the ring on his finger. When the judge declared them husband and wife, Ethan and Mason started clapping, imitating the adults without really knowing why, but feeling they should celebrate. That afternoon, they met with Marina's alleged grandparents at a cafe near the house. Jonathan and Catherine Anderson were an elegant upper-middle-class couple in their 70s. They brought several photos of Marina as a child and teenager. She was always stubborn, Catherine said, showing a photo of Marina at 15. Once she made up her mind, nothing could change it. Why did you drift apart? William asked directly. Jonathan sighed. Marina wanted to be an artist, an actress specifically. We thought she should do something more stable. Medicine, law. We argued a lot about it, he explained. When she met you and decided to marry, that was the last straw. We thought she was throwing her life away. And then? She said if we couldn't accept her choices, she didn't want contact anymore, Catherine continued, her eyes watery. We hoped with time she'd mature, reconsider. But she was too proud. We tried reaching out when we heard she was pregnant, Jonathan added, but she wouldn't answer our calls or letters. She moved without telling us. William processed the information. It was true Marina had never mentioned family conflicts, always saying simply that her parents had died in an accident, but he knew her strong personality, her tendency to cut ties when hurt. How did you find out about the boys now? A private investigator. We hired him years ago to try to find her, Catherine admitted. When we learned she had passed, it was devastating, but knowing she left 2 grandsons was a light at the end of the tunnel. During the meeting, Ethan and Mason played in the cafe's children's area, discreetly observed by their grandparents. William noticed how they watched them with affectionate yet calculating eyes. They're beautiful, Catherine remarked. They look like her. They're happy boys, William said, and we want them to stay that way. Of course, Jonathan agreed. That's why we're thinking of shared custody. They would have the best of both worlds, the love of their father and Mrs. Dorothy, and also the opportunities we could offer. What kind of opportunities? Dorothy asked. Education abroad, cultural trips, connections with influential people, Catherine listed. Jonathan runs a highly successful import business. We can open doors that... My children don't need doors opened by influence, William interrupted. They'll earn their place in the world on their own merit. The atmosphere grew tense. The psychologist overseeing the session intervened. Mr. Parker, wouldn't it be selfish to deprive the children of expanded opportunities? And wouldn't it be selfish to take them from the environment where they're happy just to satisfy the wishes of people who never cared about them before? Dorothy countered, surprising everyone. The meeting ended without an agreement. The grandparents insisted on greater involvement in their grandchildren's lives. William maintained they could visit, but only in his home and under his supervision. On the drive home, William and Dorothy discussed the situation. What did you think of them? He asked. They mean well, but... She hesitated. Go on. They see the boys as a second chance to have Emily back, not as Ethan and Mason individuals, Dorothy observed, and they want to shape them into what they thought Emily should have been. William agreed. He'd noticed the same thing. We'll hold our ground, supervised visits, nothing more. By Friday, the deadline set by their lawyer, William received a call. Mr. Parker, the Andersons have decided to pursue legal action to formalize visitation rights, she formally informed. Expected, William replied. My attorney is prepared. The legal battle dragged on for months. There were multiple hearings, psychological evaluations, and visits from social workers. Ethan and Mason, now 3, began sensing the tension despite the adults' efforts to shield them. The first victory came when the judge ruled the children would remain in their home throughout the proceedings, acknowledging they were well cared for and happy in their current environment. The second was when Dorothy, now legally their mother through marriage, was recognized as a party to the case, entitled to present her own defense. Dr. Franklin worked brilliantly, submitting medical and psychological reports proving the twins' excellent development, testimonies from their preschool teachers, and even a report from the social worker who'd investigated the prior complaint, all attesting to the quality of their care. The turning point came when the psychologist hired by the grandparents admitted the children had strong emotional bonds with William and Dorothy. "In my professional assessment, Ethan and Mason clearly view Mr. Parker as their father and Mrs. Parker as their mother," he testified. "Separating them now would be traumatic and harmful to their emotional development." When asked about shared custody, he was even clearer. 3-year-olds need stability, routine, and secure attachments. Splitting their time between 2 homes, 2 sets of authority figures, 2 sets of rules, would be extremely damaging at this developmental stage. The judge's final ruling came 6 months after the case began. The children shall remain in the sole custody of their biological father and stepmother. Maternal grandparents are granted supervised visitation every 2 weeks to occur in the children's home for an initial 6-month period, subject to re-evaluation. William and Dorothy wept with relief when they heard the news. Ethan and Mason would continue to be their sons, raised with the love and values they believed were right. The first visits from the grandparents were tense, but little by little, the atmosphere softened. Jonathan and Catherine realized they couldn't change the situation and began to accept their role as visiting grandparents. Ethan and Mason enjoyed the visits, especially because Jonathan always brought interesting books and Catherine made delicious sweets. But it was clear they saw those meetings as something special, not part of their family routine. Over time, William started allowing the grandparents to take the boys on short outings. The zoo, the park, the mall, always with a set return time, and the condition that they respect the educational rules established at home. "We don't eat sweets before lunch," Mason explained seriously to Catherine during one outing. "Mama said it's bad for our teeth. And we have to ask permission before taking someone else's toy," Ethan added. "Papa taught us." The grandparents realized the children had been raised with solid values and loving discipline. Gradually, they stopped questioning William and Dorothy's parenting methods. A year after the legal process ended, on a Sunday afternoon, the whole family was gathered in the garden. Ethan and Mason, now 4 years old, played with building blocks while the adults talked. "So you know, William," Jonathan said, "I think Emily would be proud seeing how you've raised these children." "They're respectful, kind, smart," Catherine agreed, "and they clearly feel loved and safe." Dorothy, who had long felt judged by the grandparents, finally relaxed in their presence. "We just want what's best for the boys," she said simply. "And you've given them that," Jonathan admitted. "I'm sorry if at first we were difficult. It was just missing Emily, wanting to make up for lost time." That afternoon, for the first time, they truly felt like an extended family. The grandparents were no longer a threat, but part of the children's support network. Ethan came running to show his block construction to all the adults, receiving praise from each one. Mason soon followed with his own creation, just as proud. "I'm gonna build a big house so everyone can live together," Ethan announced. "It won't fit, silly," Mason laughed. "You have to build 2 houses side by side. Then everyone will be neighbors," Ethan shouted, excited by his own idea. The adults smiled at the children's wisdom. In a way, that was exactly what they had managed to build, an extended family where everyone had their place, but Ethan and Mason remained secure in their home. That night, after the grandparents left and the children were asleep, William and Dorothy stayed on the porch talking about the day. "I never thought I'd get here," Dorothy reflected. "Get where?" "Married mother of 2 beautiful boys, college graduate, respected by my husband's family," she smiled. 5 years ago, I was just a widowed cook with no children. And I was a workaholic businessman who couldn't even look at his own kids," William recalled. "Look how far we've come." "Do you regret it? The marriage, I mean," she asked in a rare moment of insecurity. William thought for a moment before answering. "You know, Dorothy, when I married Emily, it was for romantic love, passion, dreams, future plans full of fantasy," he said slowly. "But what we've built together, it's stronger. It's real partnership, practical love, a true family." "So you don't regret it?" "I regret just one thing." He turned to look at her. "That it took me so long to realize you're the most amazing woman I've ever known." Dorothy felt her face grow warm. "William, I mean it, Dorothy. You saved my life, saved my children, and even gave me the chance to discover how wonderful it is to have a real family." He took her hand. "If that doesn't deserve all the rings in the world, I don't know what does." They stood there, hand in hand, watching the garden where their children played every day, where they had built a life neither of them had ever imagined possible. On the twins' 5th birthday, the celebration wasn't just about their growth, but everything the family had achieved. Ethan and Mason ran around the garden with dozens of friends. William manned the grill surrounded by other fathers, and Dorothy organized the games with the ease of someone who had found her calling. Jonathan and Catherine were there, now fully part of the family dynamic. They had brought a special gift, an album with photos of Emily from childhood up to her pregnancy with the twins. "We want them to know their birth mother," Catherine explained to Dorothy, "but we know you're the mother who raised them." "Thank you," Dorothy said, moved as she flipped through the album. "They'll be proud to know where they came from." During the party, one of William's friends remarked, "You two are the most united couple I know. I've always seen you as the perfect team." William and Dorothy exchanged a knowing glance. It was funny how people saw grand romantic love where there was, in fact, something even better. A solid family love, built day by day, grounded in respect, trust, and shared goals. That night, William found Dorothy in the kitchen, putting away the last remnants of the party. "It was a perfect day," he said. "It really was. The boys were so happy," she smiled. "And I think we've finally brought everyone together as one family." William stepped closer. "Dorothy, can I tell you something?" "Always." "Today, watching you organize everything, taking care of everyone, being the heart of this home." He paused. "I realized I love you. Truly." She stopped stacking plates and looked at him. "What do you mean?" "Not just as a partner, as the boy's mother, or as a friend," he explained. "I love you as a woman, as the person I want by my side for the rest of my life, in every way." Dorothy felt her heart race. "William, are you sure? It's not just gratitude, or affection, or—" "I'm sure." He moved closer. "I know our marriage started out of convenience, but it's become the most real thing I've ever known. I want it to be real in every way." "I love you too," she whispered. "I have for a long time, but I never had the courage to say it because I thought you were still tied to Emily's memory." "Emily was part of my past. She gave me the boys, and I'll always be grateful for that." William cupped her face in his hands. "But you are my present and my future. You and the boys are everything precious to me." They kissed for the first time, right there in the kitchen, where it had all begun years before. It wasn't a kiss of youthful passion, but one of mature love, built on a solid foundation of trust and companionship. "And now?" Dorothy asked when they pulled apart. "Now we keep going exactly as we were," William smiled. "Except now we admit we love each other as husband and wife, not just as partners." "Will the boys notice any difference?" "I don't think so. They already see us as husband and wife," he laughed. "To them, we've always been mom and dad who live in the same house." They were right. Ethan and Mason didn't notice any significant change in the household. What changed was their parents' peace of mind, finally able to fully embrace their feelings for each other. 2 years later, when the twins were 7, Dorothy became pregnant. The news took them by surprise. They hadn't even discussed the possibility of more children. "How do you feel?" William asked when she told him. "Scared, happy, worried, excited," she laughed. "All at the same time, and you?" "The same." He hugged her. "But mostly happy. Completely happy." They told Ethan and Mason during a family dinner. "You're going to have a little brother or sister," Dorothy announced. "What do you mean?" Ethan asked, confused. "Mommy has a baby growing in her belly, just like you grew in Emily's belly," William explained patiently. "But you won't love me less, right?" Mason worried immediately. "Impossible." Dorothy knelt to their level. "Our hearts grow along with our family. The more people we love, the more love we have to give." The boys got excited at the prospect. They immediately started making plans to teach the baby how to walk, talk, and play. The pregnancy went smoothly. Dorothy, at 45, was closely monitored by the doctor, but there were no complications. William was even more present than usual, sharing all the household and childcare duties. Jonathan and Catherine were moved by the news. This would be the first biological grandchild on both sides of the family. "This baby is lucky to be born into an already formed family, full of love," Catherine remarked. Elizabeth Dorothy Parker was born in the early hours of March, weighing 7 pounds, perfectly healthy. Ethan and Mason waited anxiously in the hospital lobby to meet their little sister. When they finally saw her, they were in awe. "She looks just like a doll," Ethan whispered reverently. "Can I touch her?" Mason asked, extending a finger toward his sister's tiny hand. The baby gripped his finger tightly, making everyone smile. "She likes me," Mason exclaimed proudly. In the following months, Ethan and Mason proved to be the most protective and loving brothers. They helped with baby tasks, sang to her when she cried, and argued over who got to push the stroller on walks. The house grew busier, but also more complete. Elizabeth was a calm baby who slept well and smiled often. Dorothy joked that her daughter had been born into an already organized family and had adapted easily. William watched it all with a full heart. He had 3 children he loved equally, the twins he'd learned to raise and the daughter he'd seen from the first ultrasound. He had a wife who was his best friend, his partner in everything, and now, in the fullest sense, the love of his life. When Elizabeth turned 1, the family decided to take a special trip. They spent 2 weeks at a beach house on the Long Island coast, just the 5 of them. Ethan and Mason, now 8, helped care for their little sister, played with her in the sand, always supervised, and beamed when other adults remarked on how loving they were as brothers. "She's our real little sister," Ethan explained to a woman on the beach who had complimented their family's harmony. "We teach her everything." One afternoon, while the children napped, William and Dorothy walked along the shore talking about the future. "Do you want more kids?" he asked. "I don't know," she answered honestly. "Part of me would love to, but I'm 46 now, and 3 kids are already a handful. Whatever you want. To me, our family is already perfect as it is." "I think so too." She paused to pick up a pretty shell. "But if another one comes, they'll be welcome. And if not, these 3 will have so much love they won't miss a thing," he added. They stood there watching the ocean, thinking about how much their lives had changed since that afternoon, when he'd come home early and found Dorothy bathing the twins in the kitchen sink. "Do you remember the day we met?" Dorothy asked. "How could I forget? You were singing that song by Emily, the boys were laughing in the water." William smiled nostalgically. "I thought I'd faint from emotion." "And I thought I'd get fired," she laughed. "I never imagined you'd let me keep taking care of them." "Best decision I ever made in my life," he pulled her close. "You saved us, Dorothy. You saved the boys from a life without maternal love, and you saved me from a life without true purpose." "We saved each other," she corrected. "You gave me a family when I thought I'd never have one again. You gave me children, a husband, purpose, an education, everything a woman could dream of." When they returned from their trip, they found a surprise waiting at home. The neighborhood had organized a welcome home celebration for the family, with signs, balloons, and a community barbecue in the yard. "You're an example to everyone here," said Mrs. Ruth, their 70-year-old neighbor. "A united family, well-mannered children, always willing to help others. We wanted to celebrate that." Ethan, Mason, and Elizabeth were the center of attention, playing with all the other kids on the street and being spoiled by the adults. It was clear they'd won the affection of the entire neighborhood. During the barbecue, William pulled Dorothy aside. "You know, I realized something today," he said. "What?" "We didn't just create a happy family. We became part of the community. The boys have roots here, friendships, people who care about them." He watched Ethan teaching a younger boy how to play ball. "That's a kind of wealth no money can buy." "And they'll carry that with them for life," Dorothy agreed, seeing Mason help a girl who had fallen off her bike. Compassion, a sense of community, generosity. That night, after all the neighbors had left and the children were asleep, William and Dorothy stayed up tidying the house and talking about the day. "Dorothy, can I confess something?" he said. "Of course." "Sometimes I'm afraid all this is too good to be true," he admitted, "like it's a dream I might wake up from at any moment." "I feel that way sometimes too," she confessed. But then I look at our children, at our life, and I realize it's real. We built this with hard work, dedication, love. And we'll keep building, he hugged her. Every day, every challenge, every joy, together. Together, she repeated, resting her head on his chest. In the years that followed, the Parker-Wilson family continued to grow in unity and happiness. Ethan developed a talent for music and started playing guitar. Mason discovered a passion for sports and joined the school soccer team. Elizabeth, still young, already showed a strong personality and sharp intelligence. Dorothy completed her postgraduate degree in educational psychology and began working part-time at a private school, helping children with learning difficulties. William restructured his company again for even more flexibility, delegating more responsibilities so he could focus on family. Grandparents Jonathan and Catherine became constant, beloved presences. Elizabeth adored them, and they returned that love with special affection for the granddaughter they'd been able to watch grow from birth. Mrs. Elizabeth, William's mother, after years of resistance, finally fully accepted Dorothy into the family. At a Sunday lunch, she made a heartfelt declaration that moved everyone. "Dorothy, I want to apologize for being so difficult at first," she said, holding her daughter-in-law's hand. "You've proven to be the best thing that ever happened to this family. My grandchildren are wonderful children because of you." "Thank you, Mrs. Elizabeth," Dorothy replied, equally moved. "That means so much to me." On the twins' 10th birthday, the party was a celebration of everything they'd achieved. The house was full of the children's friends, William and Dorothy's co-workers, neighbors, and family. During the birthday celebration, Ethan grabbed the makeshift microphone, a broomstick with a ball on the end, and gave a speech that moved all the adults. "I want to thank my dad and my mom for being the best parents in the world," he said, with the seriousness of a 10-year-old. "They taught us that family isn't just about sharing the same blood, but about truly loving each other. And we are a family that loves each other so much," Mason added. "And I also want to thank Grandpa Jonathan and Grandma Catherine, who tell us stories about our mom, Emily, and Grandma Elizabeth, who makes the best pudding in the world. Elizabeth, just 3 years old, didn't want to be left out. And I want to thank my brothers, who teach me everything and always take care of me." There wasn't a dry eye at the party. William and Dorothy looked at each other with pride. They had raised children who understood the true meaning of family. That night, after everyone had left, the family stayed in the living room, reminiscing about the best moments of the celebration. Elizabeth slept in Dorothy's arms, while Ethan and Mason told jokes and made plans for the next birthday. "Dad, Mom," Ethan suddenly said, growing more serious, "we've never really said this, but thank you for staying together, for raising us with so much love." "Yeah," Mason agreed. "Some of our friends have divorced parents who fight, who make them choose sides. We're lucky you love each other and love us too." William and Dorothy were moved by their children's maturity. "You deserve all the love in the world," Dorothy said, "and you'll always have that no matter what happens." "Promise?" Mason asked. "We promise," William confirmed. "Forever." Years later, when Ethan was 15, Mason was also 15, and Elizabeth was 8. Something happened that tested the family's strength once again. William received an offer he couldn't refuse to expand his business internationally, but it meant moving to Miami for 2 years. "What do you all think?" he asked during a family dinner. "It would be an adventure," Elizabeth said excitedly. "I'd learn real English. But what about our friends here?" Ethan worried. "And school? And Mason's soccer team?" "Those are important things," Dorothy agreed. "And I'd have to take a leave from the college where I teach." They spent weeks weighing the pros and cons. In the end, they decided William would go alone for the first 6 months to test it out. If it worked, the family would move. If not, he'd turn down the offer. It was the first significant separation the family had faced in over 10 years. William called every day, did video chats, and sent gifts. But it wasn't the same. "I miss Daddy," Elizabeth said one night, cuddled up to Dorothy. "Me too, sweetheart. He misses us a lot too." "Then why did he go?" she asked with childlike logic. "Sometimes adults have to do hard things to secure the family's future," Dorothy explained. but that doesn't mean he loves us any less. Ethan and Mason, now teenagers, understood the situation better but still felt their father's absence. The three of them grew even closer, supporting one another. After 4 months, William called with a decision. "I can't stand being away from you all anymore," he said during a family video call. "I'm turning down the offer and coming home." "Are you sure?" Dorothy asked. "It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." "You all are my once-in-a-lifetime opportunity," he replied without hesitation. "Without my family by my side, professional success means nothing." When William returned, the welcome was emotional. Elizabeth ran into his arms, Ethan and Mason competed to help with the luggage, and Dorothy kissed him as if it had been years. "Never again," she whispered in his ear. "We'll never be apart like that again." "Never again," he agreed. "From now on, either the whole family goes together or no one goes." That experience made them value family unity even more. William completely restructured his business to avoid long trips, and Dorothy doubled her investment in her local career. On the twins' 15th birthday, the celebration was different. Ethan and Mason, now young men, wanted a more mature party. They invited school friends, put together a music playlist, and asked for the party to be in the garden but with more teenage-style decorations. Elizabeth, now 8, was the little sister everyone protected, but also the one who livened up the party the most with her outgoing personality. During the party, one of Ethan's friends said to Dorothy, "Auntie, your family is so close. Ethan and Mason talk about you with so much affection. It's different from most teenagers who just complain about their parents." Dorothy felt proud. She knew adolescence was a tricky phase, but Ethan and Mason remained respectful, loving, and above all united with their family. That night, the twins asked to talk to their parents. "We wanted to say something important," Ethan began, sounding nervous. "Go ahead," William encouraged. "We've always known our birth mother died when we were born," Mason continued, "and that Dorothy isn't our biological mum." Dorothy's heart tightened, unsure where this was going. "But to us, she's always been our mum, for real. The only one," Ethan said, looking straight at her. "And now that we're older, we want to make it official." "What do you mean?" William asked. "We want Mom to legally adopt us," Mason explained, "so that on paper, she's our mom too, not just in our hearts." Dorothy couldn't hold back her tears. "Boys, are you sure? This is such a serious decision." "Mom," Ethan interrupted, deliberately using the word mom. "You've taken care of us since we were babies, raised us, loved us, taught us. If that doesn't make someone a mother, then we don't know what does. Besides," Mason added, "Elizabeth is our biological sister, but we don't love her more than we love each other. Love isn't about blood, it's about choice, and you've chosen to be our parents every single day." William was deeply moved. His sons at 15 showed a maturity and wisdom that filled him with pride. "If this is what you want, we'll make it happen," he said. "It'll be an honor to make official what's been real for years." The adoption process was simpler than they expected, since Dorothy was married to William and had raised the boys since infancy. The judge was moved by their story and expedited the paperwork. On the day of the final hearing, Ethan and Mason wore suits they'd specially chosen for the occasion. Elizabeth wore a pink dress and brought flowers for her mother. William wore the same suit from his civil wedding with Dorothy. When the judge asked if they were certain about their decision, Ethan replied, "Your Honor, we're just legalizing something that's been true for 15 years. Dorothy Wilson has always been our mother and always will be. We just want the papers to confirm what our hearts already know," Mason added. The judge signed the documents, finalizing the adoption. Ethan Mason Wilson Parker and Mason Ethan Wilson Parker now had 2 last names, their biological fathers and their adoptive mothers. They left the courthouse as an officially complete family. Dorothy was now legally the mother of 3 children, 2 by adoption and 1 by birth. At the celebration party, held at home with the whole family, Jonathan gave a heartfelt toast to the Wilson Parker family, who taught us that blood doesn't define family, love does. And to Dorothy, Catherine added, who turned 2 motherless boys into loved and secure sons. That night, Dorothy stood admiring the 3 birth certificates of her children, all now bearing her name as mother. "Happy?" William asked, hugging her from behind. "Complete," she replied. "Finally complete." The following years brought the normal challenges of a family with teenagers. Ethan discovered a calling for engineering and began preparing for college entrance exams. Mason decided he wanted to be a physical education teacher. Elizabeth showed artistic talent and loved drawing and painting. Dorothy got a promotion at the school where she worked, becoming the academic coordinator. William expanded his business locally, creating jobs in the area without needing to travel. On the twins' 18th birthday, the party was a celebration of adulthood. Ethan and Mason, now young men, insisted the party be a tribute to their parents. 18 years ago, you took in 2 babies who cried a lot and gave you trouble, Ethan said in his speech. Today, you have 2 sons who are good men, and that's thanks to you. Thank you for never giving up on us, Mason added, for teaching us that family is about commitment, love, and being there. Elizabeth, already 13 and every bit a teenager, also wanted to speak. I grew up watching my brothers love you unconditionally. That taught me what a family should be. Thank you for being the best parents in the world. There were no words to describe the pride William and Dorothy felt in that moment. A few months later, Ethan passed the entrance exam for civil engineering at the best university in New York. Mason also got in for physical education at a nearby university. The house grew quieter, but no less loving. Elizabeth now had more of her parents' attention, but always eagerly waited for weekends when her brothers came home. I miss them, she confessed to Dorothy one night. Me too, sweetheart. But that's how it should be, Dorothy explained. We raise children so they can fly on their own. If they're ready to face the world, it means we did a good job. But they'll always come back, right? Always, William assured, appearing in the bedroom doorway. Family is a safe harbor. No matter where life takes you, you'll always have a home to return to. When Ethan and Mason graduated at 22, both found jobs in New York. Ethan at a renowned construction firm, Mason as a teacher at a private school. They rented an apartment together, keeping their lifelong partnership, but visited the family every weekend. Elizabeth, now 17, was preparing for her arts college entrance exam. Soon it'll be your turn to fly too, Dorothy said one afternoon, watching Elizabeth paint in the garden. I'm not sure I want to, Elizabeth admitted. I like it here, our routine, having you close. And you can keep that, William said. If you choose a nearby college, you can keep living at home. If you choose somewhere far, know we'll always have a room waiting for you. That's what I love most about our family, Elizabeth smiled. We respect each other's choices. On the twins' 20th birthday, Ethan showed up with a girlfriend. Jessica, a co-worker and fellow engineer. Mason started dating Emily, a name everyone found an interesting coincidence, a teacher at his school. I'm so glad you brought your girlfriends, Dorothy said. Family grows whenever someone new who loves our children joins us. Both Jessica and Emily were welcomed warmly. The family had learned that love doesn't shrink when shared. It only multiplies. Elizabeth passed the entrance exam for fine arts at a university in New York, but chose to keep living at home and commute every day. It's not that I don't want independence, she explained. It's just that I still like waking up every day knowing you're there. Maybe a few more years, but not now. Stay as long as you want, my love, Dorothy said. There will always be room for you in this house. At 65, Dorothy decided to retire from her role as pedagogical coordinator, but continued giving private lessons to children with learning difficulties. I can't stop completely, she told William. Teaching is part of who I am. William, at 60, drastically reduced his work at the company, handing over operational management to younger partners. He wanted to spend more time with his wife, watch their daughter graduate, and maybe meet grandchildren someday. We've built a beautiful life, he said one evening, as they walked through the garden where it all began. Beautiful and full of meaning, Dorothy agreed. Remember when I was afraid you'd find out I couldn't read well? And I was afraid to hold my own children, he laughed. Look how far we've come. 3 kids graduated or graduating, a solid marriage, a close family, grandchildren on the way. She listed their achievements. And most of all, love. so much love. He stopped and kissed her under the same trees where the twins had played as children. When Elizabeth graduated with a degree in fine arts at 22, she held her first solo exhibition. The theme was family, paintings depicting moments of life at home, from her childhood to adulthood. The exhibition was a success. Critics praised Elizabeth's sensitivity and technique, but most of all the genuine emotion in her work. "You've captured something many artists spend their whole lives trying to portray," the gallery curator said. "The essence of what a true family is." At the opening, the entire family was present. Ethan and Mason, now 27, brought their girlfriends, who were practically fiancés by then. Jonathan and Catherine, despite their age, made sure to attend. Mrs. Elizabeth, William's mother, now 82, was also there. "This girl has talent," she said, admiring a painting of a family lunch in the garden. "But most of all, she has soul." The centerpiece of the exhibition showed Dorothy bathing two babies in a kitchen sink while a man watched emotionally from the doorway. The title was "The Moment Our Family Began." "Why did you choose this moment?" a journalist asked Elizabeth. "Because it was when my parents first recognized themselves as a family," she answered with conviction. "Everything that came after started in that moment of unconditional love." Dorothy and William were moved, seeing their story through their daughter's artistic eyes. "She understood everything," William murmured in Dorothy's ear. "Understood and immortalized it," she replied, wiping a tear. 2 years later, Ethan proposed to Jessica. He did it during a family lunch in the garden, with everyone present. "Jessica," he said, kneeling on the grass where he had played as a child, "do you want to officially join this crazy family?" "Of course I do," she answered, laughing and crying at the same time. The wedding was held in the same garden, decorated by Elizabeth with her own artwork. A justice of the peace officiated, but the most emotional moment came when Ethan made his vows. "Jessica, I learned from my parents that marriage isn't about finding the perfect person, but about choosing every day to love and care for someone. I promise to make that choice with you for the rest of my life." 6 months later, Mason and Emily married. They chose a beach ceremony, but the reception was again at home. "Two daughters-in-law who feel like daughters," Dorothy told William during the celebration. "Our family only grows in love. And soon we'll have little grandchildren running around," he smiled, watching the two young women chatting animatedly with Elizabeth. He was right. A year later, Jessica announced she was pregnant. It would be the family's first grandchild. The news was shared during a Sunday dinner, a tradition the family religiously upheld. "We have some news," Ethan said, looking like he might burst with happiness. "Out with it," Elizabeth urged impatiently. "You're going to be grandparents," Jessica announced, holding up an ultrasound. The silence lasted only a few seconds before everyone erupted into shouts, tears, and hugs all at once. "My first grandchild," Dorothy sobbed, clutching the ultrasound photo. "I can't believe I'm alive to see this." "Grandpa," William repeated the word, testing how it sounded. "Grandpa William, I like it." Elizabeth was thrilled at the prospect of being an aunt. "I'll teach them everything: painting, drawing, music." She was already making plans. Mason and Emily exchanged a knowing glance. "Actually, you'll get plenty of practice," Emily said with a mysterious smile. "What do you mean?" Dorothy asked. "Because in 7 months you'll be grandparents again," Mason announced. The second round of shouts and tears was even more intense than the first. 2 grandchildren. Dorothy could barely speak. "William, 2 grandchildren." "A new generation," he said, moved. The family keeps growing. Jonathan and Catherine, now potential great-grandparents, were beaming. "We're going to have great-grandchildren," Catherine repeated in disbelief. "Jonathan, we're going to have great-grandchildren." The following months were filled with intense preparations. The guest room was turned into a nursery for when the grandchildren visited. Dorothy knitted full layettes for both babies. William built a small playground in the backyard. Elizabeth documented the entire process in drawings and paintings, creating an artistic diary of the new generation's arrival. Gabriel, Ethan, and Jessica's son, was born first in May, a sturdy baby with dark hair like his father. 3 weeks later, Sophia, Mason, and Emily's daughter arrived, petite and delicate like her mother. "My first grandchildren," Dorothy whispered, cradling Gabriel while William rocked Sophia. "They're perfect. And look at you," Elizabeth laughed, watching the scene. "You already know exactly what to do. First-time parent experience." It was true. Dorothy and William had slipped naturally back into baby care, as if it were just yesterday they'd raised Ethan, Mason, and Elizabeth. "Is it different being grandparents?" Jessica asked curiously. "It's better," William replied. "You get all the joy of loving these little ones without the full weight of responsibility, and we can spoil them and then hand them back to the parents," he chuckled. "Say that now," Ethan teased. "Just wait till they start running around here." Family Sundays became even livelier with the grandchildren's arrival. Gabriel and Sophia became the center of attention, but in a way that brought the whole family together around them. Elizabeth turned out to be the most devoted aunt in the world, always inventing games, drawing pictures for the kids, and singing songs she'd learned from her mother. "Aunt Elizabeth is fun," Gabriel declared when he turned 2 and could speak in full sentences. "Aunt paints." Sophia, a little younger, pointed at Elizabeth's artwork around the house. On Ethan and Jessica's 5th wedding anniversary, they made an announcement that stunned everyone. They were adopting a child. "You taught us that family isn't just about blood," Ethan explained. "We want to give a child who needs love a chance." "Just like Mom did with us," Mason added. "You adopted us in your heart first, on paper later. We want to do the same." Dorothy was deeply moved. Her children had learned the most important lessons about love and family. The child Ethan and Jessica adopted was Luke, a 4-year-old boy who had lost his parents in a car accident. His only relatives couldn't take care of him, and he had been in a shelter for 6 months. When Dorothy met him, her heart ached in a familiar way. Luke had the sad eyes of someone who had lost the security of a home far too soon, but also a spark of hope she recognized immediately. "Hi, Luke," she bent down to his level. "I'm Grandma Dorothy. I heard you're going to live with Ethan and Jessica." "You're really a grandma?" he asked, skeptical but curious. "I sure am. A big-hearted grandma with room for one more special grandson," she smiled. "And do you make yummy food like the grandmas on TV?" "I sure do. In fact, I was thinking of making a chocolate cake today. Do you like that?" Luke's eyes lit up for the first time. "I love it. It's been so long since I had chocolate cake." At that moment, Dorothy knew her family was about to grow with love once again. Luke's adjustment was gradual but filled with affection. Gabriel, 2 years younger, immediately saw him as an older brother. Sophia, the same age, shared her toys without hesitation. Elizabeth became the artistic aunt who taught him how to draw. "This is how our family works," Ethan explained to Luke one night, when the boy still felt unsure. "We welcome those who need love, and we give love to those who want it." "But what if I don't know how to be a good son?" Luke asked with childlike honesty. "No one is born knowing," Jessica replied, hugging him. "We learn together, making mistakes, getting it right, but always with lots of love." In the following months, Luke blossomed. His grades improved, he made new friends, and most importantly, he developed a confidence he hadn't had before. "Luke reminds me of you two when you were little," Dorothy told Ethan and Mason during lunch one day. "The same need for security, to know he won't be abandoned again." "That's why we chose him," Ethan said. "We saw our own story in his." "And now he has what we had, a family that never gives up," Mason added. When Luke celebrated 1 year with Ethan and Jessica, they threw a 1-year family anniversary party. Luke drew a picture for every member of their big family, including great-grandparents and all the aunts and uncles. "This one's for Grandma Dorothy," he said, handing her a drawing of a woman in an apron cooking. "Because you make the best cakes in the world and always hug me when I'm sad." "And this one's for Grandpa William," he showed a drawing of a man in a suit playing in the garden. "Because you stopped working to play with me on my first day here." Dorothy and William couldn't hold back their tears. In Luke's generosity, they saw the same grateful heart Ethan and Mason had always had. Around that time, Elizabeth met Matthew, a classmate from art school. Their relationship grew slowly, built on friendship and shared interests. "He's different from my friends' boyfriends," Elizabeth told her mother. "He respects my dreams, encourages me to paint, and actually wants to get to know you all properly." "Those are very good signs," Dorothy smiled. "Whenever you want to bring him over for dinner, go ahead." Matthew's first dinner with the family was a trial by fire. A full table with 3 generations, babies crying, overlapping conversations, loud laughter. Some of Elizabeth's past boyfriends had been scared off by the family's intensity. But not only did Matthew pass the test, he asked to come back the next week. "I've never seen a family so close," he told Elizabeth afterward. "It's beautiful how much you all care for each other." "It's a little crazy sometimes," she laughed, "but I couldn't live any other way." "And I wouldn't want you to," he replied, and Elizabeth knew she'd found someone special. 2 years later, Elizabeth and Matthew got married in an intimate beach ceremony, followed by a party in the garden of the family home. It was the 3rd wedding celebrated in that garden, and Dorothy joked that the place was becoming famous. "This garden has watched our family grow," she said in her speech during the party. "It's seen the boys take their first steps, celebrations, tears of joy, and now another wedding. It's a sacred place for us." Elizabeth and Matthew decided to live in a small house near her parents. They wanted independence, but without losing family closeness. "Family works best when there's room to breathe, but everyone's still nearby," Elizabeth explained her philosophy. When Dorothy turned 70, the family threw a surprise party she would never forget. The garden was decorated with all her favorite plants, and each family member prepared a tribute. Ethan gave an emotional speech. "Mom, you took in 2 orphaned babies and raised us into good men. You treated Elizabeth like a princess, but never spoiled her. You welcomed Luke as a grandson in your heart, and you taught all of us that love has no limits when it's real." Mason added, "Thank you for believing you could be our mother even when you weren't sure how. Thank you for learning, growing, and becoming the incredible woman you are today." Elizabeth presented a special piece of art, a portrait of Dorothy surrounded by all the people she had loved and cared for throughout her life. "Mom, you're the heart of our family," she said. "This painting will stay in the living room forever, reminding everyone how special you are." Luke, now 8 and fully part of the family, recited a poem he'd written with his teacher's help. "Grandma Dorothy has a giant heart, cooks delicious food, hugs all the time, teaches me family's always important, and that true love never fades away." The younger grandchildren, Gabriel and Sophia, now 5 and 4, sang a song they'd learned just for the occasion. William gave the final speech. "Dorothy, 30 years ago, you came into my life as an employee and became my partner, my best friend, the mother of my children, and the love of my life. Thank you for turning a house into a home and a lost man into a happy family." The party lasted until dawn, with 3 generations dancing, laughing, and sharing stories. It was the kind of celebration only a truly close family could create. The next day, as they cleaned up, Dorothy reflected on her journey. "Sometimes I can't believe this is my life," she told William. "Why?" "Remember how I was when I got here? A 50-year-old widow, no children, no education." She paused while putting away dishes. "And look at me now. 5 children, 6 grandchildren, a degree, a career I love, a solid marriage. And most of all, a family that adores you," William added. "But you know what? You were always special. I just gave you the chance to show it. And you? You've changed a lot too," she smiled. "Remember the man who couldn't even hold his own children?" "I do," he laughed. "Now look at me. 6 grandchildren fighting to sit on my lap during story time." It was true. William had become a model grandfather, always available for games, outings, and conversations. The kids adored him as much as they adored Dorothy. A few months after the party, something happened that tested the family's strength once again. Jonathan, now 85, had a stroke and was hospitalized for a few days. The diagnosis wasn't serious, but he'd need special care for a while. "We'll take care of him here at home," Dorothy decided immediately. "There's a room downstairs, and I know how to care for people." "Dorothy, you already have so much on your plate," Catherine tried to dissuade her. "And we can afford a nurse." "Family doesn't pay family to take care of each other." William supported his wife. "Jonathan took care of Emily. Emily gave us the twins. and the twins brought you into our lives. It's a circle of love and care. Jonathan spent 3 months at home recovering. During that time, he formed an even stronger bond with his great-grandchildren, who visited him every day. "Grandpa Jonathan, tell us the story about Mom Emily when she was little," Gabriel would always ask. "The one where she climbed the tree and couldn't get down," Sophia added. Luke, always more introspective, loved the stories about when Jonathan was young and worked importing goods from other countries. "One day, I want to travel to those places you've been," he'd say, eyes shining. "And you will, my boy," Jonathan assured him. "When you grow up, you'll see the whole world." The close interaction during those months brought the two families even closer. Catherine practically lived at the house during that time, helping care for her husband and joining in the daily routines. "You're angels," she told Dorothy one afternoon. "I don't know how to repay all this kindness." "There's nothing to repay," Dorothy replied. "Just accept that we're real family, not just on paper." When Jonathan fully recovered, he and Catherine decided to sell their large house and buy a smaller apartment in the same neighborhood as William and Dorothy. "We want to stay close to the grandchildren and great-grandchildren," they explained. "At this age, family is what matters." The move was celebrated with an official welcome to the neighborhood party, where all the neighbors met the new residents. "Now we're really neighbors," Dorothy joked. "You'll regret it when the grandkids come running to your house all the time." "I hope they come every day," Jonathan laughed. "A house without kids running around is too quiet." Around that time, Elizabeth announced she was pregnant with twins. "Twins are a family tradition," she teased. "Seems my kids wanted to honor their uncles." The news brought everyone joy. These would be the 7th and 8th grandchildren, and Elizabeth was radiant at the thought of continuing the twin dynasty. "2 babies at once," Dorothy murmured, remembering her own twins. "Elizabeth, do you have any idea how much work this will be?" "I have the best mother in the world to teach me," Elizabeth replied, hugging her, "and the best family to help." Elizabeth's twins, Andrew and Anna, were born healthy on a spring morning. They were different from birth. Andrew calm and observant like Ethan had been, Anna lively and curious like Mason. "It's amazing how genetics repeat," William remarked, watching the babies. "They have the same personalities as the family's first twins." "And now we have 8 grandchildren," Dorothy counted on her fingers, amazed. 8 children who will grow up together, loving and caring for each other. "Like a tribe," Luke, now 10, observed. "A Wilson Parker family tribe." The house grew even livelier on Sundays. 8 children of varying ages, from babies to pre-teens, created an infectious energy. Gabriel and Luke, the oldest, naturally took on leadership roles. Sophia organized the games. The new twins were the spoiled babies doted on by all their cousins. "It's beautiful to see how they look after each other," Matthew told William one afternoon. "The older kids always watching out for the younger ones, everyone included in the fun." "They learned from their parents," William noted, watching Ethan help Luke with homework while Mason played dolls with Sophia. "A family that cares together, stays together." By the time Dorothy turned 75, the family had become a small community. Beyond their children, grandchildren, and great-grandparents, there were daughters-in-law who were like daughters, a son-in-law who was like a son, and a network of deep friendships built over the years. The 75th birthday celebration was even bigger than the 70th, with 3 generations honoring the family matriarch. Ethan, now 42, gave a speech that captured everyone's feelings. "Mom, when you found us, we were just 2 orphaned babies who only knew how to cry. Today we're a family of 15 who only know how to love. That's the miracle you created." Mason, also 42, added, "And the most amazing part is that you didn't stop there. You kept creating, teaching, caring. Elizabeth, Luke, all the grandkids, everyone who comes into our family leaves better than they arrived." Elizabeth, 35, brought a special surprise, a book she had written and illustrated about the family's story. "It's a children's book," she explained, "but it tells our real story, how a cook became a mother, how an executive learned to be a father, how a family is built with love, not just blood." The book, titled The Family That Grew in the Garden, would later be published and become a success, inspiring other adoptive families. Luke, 15, surprised everyone by reciting the family's complete genealogy from memory. Grandpa William and Grandma Dorothy, married for 25 years. Uncle Ethan, married to Aunt Jessica, parents of Gabriel, Lucas, that's me, and Sophia. Uncle Mason, married to Aunt Emily, parents of Sophia. Wait, the other Sophia. He stumbled and laughed. Okay, I need to work on that. But the important thing is, we're all brothers, cousins, uncles, grandparents, and most of all family. The younger grandchildren clapped, even if they didn't fully understand, sensing the moment's significance. William, 80 and still active, gave the final speech. Dorothy, you turned my house into a family, my children into good people, and my life into an adventure of love. These 75 years are just the beginning. We have so much more to live together. That night, after everyone had left, William and Dorothy stayed alone in the garden, cleaning up the remnants of the party. Tired? He asked. Tired but happy, she smiled. 75 years, William. Who'd have thought I'd make it this far? And so much still ahead, he hugged her. Grandkids growing up, maybe great-grandkids coming, who knows what other surprises. Do you think we did it all right? She asked in a rare moment of doubt. Look around us, Dorothy. He gestured to the house where 3 generations of the family slept. We have children who are good people, grandchildren who love and respect each other, a family that's overcome every challenge together. If that's not doing it right, I don't know what is. Sometimes I still dream about my Thomas, she confessed. I wonder what he'd be like if he'd grown up, if he'd have met his siblings. I'm sure he'd be proud seeing you raise so many other children with so much love, William said tenderly. You honored his memory by being a mother in heart to so many. And Emily? Do you still think about her? With gratitude, he answered honestly. She gave me Ethan and Mason, and in a way, brought me to you. I think she'd be happy seeing how our family has grown. They lingered there a few more minutes, soaking in the night's peace and the satisfaction of a life well lived. 2 years later, when Dorothy was 77, the thing she'd always feared happened. William had a heart attack. He was in the garden playing with the grandchildren when he felt the pain in his chest. Dorothy, with the experience of someone who'd cared for many, recognized the symptoms immediately and called an ambulance. Stay calm, love, she said, holding his hand while waiting for help. Everything will be fine. Our family needs you. And I need our family, he murmured, squeezing her hand. William's surgery was successful, but he had to stay hospitalized for 2 weeks. During this time, the entire family mobilized. Ethan and Mason took turns, so there was always someone at the hospital. Elizabeth organized visiting hours to ensure William was never alone. The grandchildren made drawings and little cards to cheer up their grandfather. Luke, now 17, took on adult responsibilities, helping Dorothy with household chores and looking after his younger cousins. Luke has grown so much, Dorothy remarked to Jessica. From a frightened little boy, he's become a responsible and caring young man. That's the power of this family, Jessica smiled. Everyone who comes here becomes the best version of themselves. When William returned home, he was greeted with a surprise party organized by his grandchildren. They had decorated the garden with handmade banners and prepared all of Grandpa's favorite foods. Grandpa, you can't get sick anymore, Sophia, now 9, said seriously. We need you to tell us stories and teach us chess. And to play tag in the garden, 10-year-old Gabriel added. I'll try to stay healthy for you, William promised, moved. But you know Grandpa will get very old one day, right? Then we'll take care of you like you took care of us, Andrew, one of Elizabeth's twins, said at 5 years old. Family takes care of family, just like Grandma Dorothy taught us. The adults were touched by the children's wisdom. In the following months, William further reduced his activities and devoted himself entirely to his family. He taught Gabriel to play chess, helped Luke with his college application essays, played dolls with the girls, and most importantly, spent more time talking with Dorothy. I regret nothing, he said one afternoon as they strolled slowly through the garden, especially coming home early that day and finding you taking care of the boys. That was the day that changed our lives, she agreed. Sometimes I wonder, what if you hadn't come home early? What if you hadn't given me that chance? But I did, and you deserved every chance you got. He stopped and kissed her under the tree where they had so often talked. We're proof that love can transform everything. On William's 82nd birthday, he made a special request. He wanted the whole family to gather for a photo in the garden, the very place where it all began. I want to capture this moment, he explained. Everyone who's part of our story, in the place where it started. The photo turned out beautifully, 3 generations smiling and embracing in the flower-filled garden. At the center, William and Dorothy, surrounded by their children, grandchildren, and all the love they had built together. This will be our official photo, Dorothy decided, the one that shows what truly matters in life. When Luke graduated high school at 18, he gave a speech that moved the entire school. I want to dedicate this achievement to my adoptive family, he said from the stage, especially to my grandparents, Dorothy and William, who taught me that family isn't about where you're born, but where you're loved. The entire audience was moved. Dorothy and William, seated in the front row, wept with pride. That boy is going far, Dorothy whispered to her husband. Absolutely. He has the same determination as you, William replied. Luke was accepted into medical school, fulfilling a dream he'd developed watching Dorothy care for everyone in the family. I want to help people the way you helped me, he explained his choice. I want to bring love and care to those who need it. In Luke's first year of college, Gabriel turned 15 and Ethan and Mason celebrated their 50th birthdays. The family was constantly evolving, with each member contributing uniquely to its harmony. Ethan had become a respected engineer and began teaching at a university. Mason was the most beloved teacher at the school where he worked. Elizabeth had become a nationally recognized artist. Luke was studying medicine with excellent grades. Our children have become people who make a difference in the world, Dorothy remarked during a family dinner. Ethan teaches future engineers, Mason shapes citizens, Elizabeth touches hearts with her art, Luke will heal people. And Elizabeth is raising the next members of the family. William smiled, watching Andrew and Anna playing with their cousins. The cycle continues. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing, when Dorothy turned 80, the party was a true celebration of life. She was lucid, active, and surrounded by a family that had grown beyond any initial expectations. Luke, now in his 3rd year of medical school, gave the main speech. Grandma Dorothy, when I was 4 years old and arrived in this family scared and lost, you told me that love has no limits when it's true. Today, 20 years later, I can confirm you were right. Your love had no limits, and that's why today we have a family without borders, without prejudice, without conditions, just pure love. Gabriel, now 20 and studying engineering like his father, added, Grandma, you taught our entire generation that family is built every day with small acts of love. Thank you for building ours with so much care. Sophia, 19 and studying education inspired by her grandmother, said, I want to be just like you when I grow up, someone who welcomes, who cares, who transforms lives with love. The youngest twins, Andrew and Anna, now 15, performed a song they had composed especially for the occasion. Grandma with the big heart, who cooks with love, turned our family into the most beautiful there is. 80 years of life, each one full of light. Thank you for being our grandma, our star, our guide. The party lasted all night, with music, dancing, and many stories being told and retold. It was the kind of celebration only a truly united family could create. The next day, as they tidied up the house, Dorothy had a deep conversation with William. 80 years, William. When I was young, I thought that was a long time. Now it feels like it flew by. It flew by because it was well lived, he replied, helping her put away the dishes. Every year brought something special. Children, grandchildren, achievements, joys. And you? How do you feel at 84? I feel grateful. He stopped putting away the dishes and looked at her. Grateful to have lived to see our children become wonderful adults, Our grandchildren grow. Our family multiply in love. Sometimes I wonder what will happen when we're no longer here, she confessed, a worry she rarely voiced. Our family will go on, William answered with certainty. Ethan, Mason, Elizabeth, and Luke will raise their own children with the same love they learned from us, and they'll teach their children and so on. How can you be so sure? Because we planted good seeds, Dorothy, and good seeds always bear good fruit. It was true. In the years that followed, the family continued to grow and thrive. Luke graduated from medical school and began working at a public hospital serving underprivileged families. Gabriel graduated as an engineer and started a sustainable construction company. Sophia became an educator and began working with special needs children. Andrew and Anna, Elizabeth's twins, showed artistic talents like their mother. Andrew loved sculpture. Anna preferred painting. Both planned to pursue artistic careers. The daughters-in-law and son-in-law remained integral parts of the family. Jessica had become like a daughter to Dorothy, always present, always affectionate. Emily was the playful daughter-in-law who brought joy to every gathering. Matthew was the son-in-law who never lost his charm for his wife's family. When William turned 87, he had a second heart attack, more severe than the first. This time, he was hospitalized for a month, and his recovery was slower. I really am getting old, he joked with Dorothy during one of their hospital visits. We both are, she smiled, but we still have so much love to give, and so much love to receive too. He pointed to the room full of flowers, cards, and drawings made by their grandchildren and great-grandchildren. When he returned home, William was frailer, but his spirit remained strong. He continued joining Sunday dinners, playing with the children, more calmly now, and above all, having long conversations with Dorothy about the life they had built together. I'm not afraid to go, he said one quiet afternoon in the garden. I know our family will stay strong, united, and full of love. Don't talk like that, Dorothy pleaded, though she knew he was being realistic. We still have so much time together. All the time we have will never be enough, he took her hand, but it will be sufficient if we keep cherishing every moment. In the following months, William lived each moment with intensity. He told stories of his youth to his grandchildren, taught Gabriel how to manage the family's investments, passed on his values to Luke, and most of all, made sure Dorothy knew how proud he was of her. You were the best thing that ever happened to me, he said during one of their last deep conversations. You turned a lost man into a happy family. And you gave me the chance to be who I always wanted to be, she replied. A mother, a wife, a grandmother, everything a woman could dream of. William passed away on an autumn morning at 88, peacefully asleep in the room he had shared with Dorothy for over 20 years. She was by his side, holding his hand. The wake was a celebration of the life of a man who had learned to love deeply. Hundreds attended, family, friends, employees from the company, neighbors, and the children's classmates. Dad lived a full life, Ethan said in his eulogy. He started as a successful but emotionally distant businessman. He ended as the patriarch of a huge family, surrounded by love on all sides. He taught me it's never too late to change, Mason added. That love is learned, practiced, and built every day. Elizabeth brought one final piece of art, a portrait of William surrounded by all the people he had loved, including Emily and Thomas, the son Dorothy had lost. Dad, now you're with all those who left before you, she said, placing the painting near the casket. But you left behind an entire family who will carry on your legacy of love. Luke, now a respected doctor, gave an emotional tribute. Grandpa William welcomed me as his grandson when I was a scared little boy. He taught me that real men cry, hug, and show love. I'll carry those lessons forever and pass them on to my children when they come. The younger grandchildren each said goodbye in their own way. Gabriel promised to take care of Grandma Dorothy. Sophia said she would draw Grandpa every day so she wouldn't forget. And Andrew and Anna sang a song he loved. At the cemetery, Dorothy placed a red rose on the casket and whispered, "Thank you for coming home early that day. Thank you for changing our lives forever." In the months that followed, Dorothy grieved, surrounded by her family's love. Ethan and Mason took turns staying with her in the first weeks. Elizabeth had lunch with her every day. Luke, who had gotten a job at a nearby hospital, spent afternoons keeping his grandmother company. "I miss him so much," she confessed to Ethan one afternoon. "After so many years together, it's strange not having him here to talk to." "But he left an entire family to keep you company," Ethan replied. "And most of all, he left the certainty that you built something bigger than any of you individually." It was true. Even without William, the family remained united, strong, taking care of one another. Sundays at the house continued to be a tradition. Birthday celebrations were still filled with love. The children's education remained a priority. "Grandpa William is watching us from up above," Anna said during one of those Sunday gatherings, "and he's proud that we're still a happy family." "He certainly is," Dorothy agreed, "and he'll keep watching you grow, graduate, and start your own families." 2 years after William's passing, Dorothy, now 83, stayed active and sharp. She cooked for the family, tended to her garden, and above all remained the heart of the family. It was around this time that Luke announced his engagement to Claire, a fellow doctor he'd met at the hospital. "Grandma, I want you to meet the woman I've chosen to marry," he said, bringing Claire to a family dinner. Claire was welcomed with the warmth typical of the family. She was a humble, intelligent woman, passionate about medicine, and clearly enchanted by the close-knit family she'd found. "I've never seen a family so close," she told Dorothy after dinner. "Luke told me your story, how he came to be here. It's amazing how you've transformed so many lives." "And now you're part of that story too," Dorothy smiled. "Anyone who loves our children and grandchildren automatically becomes family." Luke and Claire's wedding was held in the family garden, continuing the tradition. It was the 4th wedding there, and Dorothy joked they should start charging rent for the space. "This garden has witnessed all the love in our family," she said in her speech. "It's seen the boys grow up, play, learn to walk. It's seen first loves, proposals, weddings, and it'll keep watching future generations blossom." During the celebration, Claire pulled Dorothy aside. "Mrs. Dorothy, I have a special request." "Go ahead, dear. When our children are born, I want you to be the first to hold them after us," Claire said, emotional. "I want them to know the great-grandmother who built an entire family with love." Dorothy was deeply moved. The thought of meeting great-grandchildren, of seeing a 4th generation, filled her with joy. A few months later, Claire became pregnant. The first great-grandchild was on the way, and Dorothy, now 84, was radiant at the prospect. "Great-grandma," she repeated, testing how it sounded. "I'm going to be a great-grandma. William, if you're listening from up there, we did it. We're going to have great-grandchildren." The baby, a boy named Theo, was born on a summer dawn. Dorothy was the first to visit him at the hospital after his parents. "Hello, Theo," she whispered, cradling him. "I'm your great-grandma Dorothy. Welcome to our family." The baby opened his little eyes as if recognizing her, and Dorothy felt her heart overflow with love once more. "He's perfect," she told Luke and Claire, "just like you both when you were babies. He already has the family's sharp gaze." "Mrs. Dorothy," Claire said, still emotional from the birth, "his first name is Theo, but his middle name is William, after his great-grandfather." Dorothy began to cry. "Theo William," she repeated. "He would have been so proud." "He is proud," Luke corrected. "I'm sure Grandpa William is watching everything from above." Theo grew up surrounded by the love of his extended family. Dorothy, despite her age, spent hours holding her great-grandson, singing the same lullabies she'd sung for Ethan and Mason decades before. "It's incredible," Elizabeth remarked one afternoon, watching her mother with Theo in her arms. "You're 85 years old and still have the energy to care for a baby. Babies give us energy," Dorothy smiled. "Every new life brings hope and joy. I feel revitalized having him here." When Theo turned 1, Gabriel announced he would also be getting married. His fiancée, Faith, was an architect and had already been an informal part of the family for 2 years. "Another garden wedding," Sophia cheered. "Our family just keeps growing." "And may it never stop," Dorothy said. "A full house is a happy house." Gabriel's wedding was especially moving because it was when Dorothy realized she was witnessing the 3rd generation of the family building their own families. Ethan, Mason and Elizabeth gave me grandchildren, she reflected during the celebration. Now the grandchildren are giving me great-grandchildren. It's the circle of life unfolding before my eyes. A year later, Luna was born, the daughter of Gabriel and Faith. She was a beautiful girl with dark hair and expressive eyes. "My second great-granddaughter," Dorothy whispered, cradling the baby. "Luna, you've arrived in a family that will love you unconditionally forever." At 86, Dorothy had 2 great-grandchildren and the promise of more on the way. Sophia had recently married, Andrew was in a serious relationship, and Anna had started art school. "Mom," Ethan said during one of their last deep conversations, "do you have any idea of the legacy you've left?" "What legacy?" she asked, genuinely curious. "A family of 15 people who know how to love without conditions, who welcome others without prejudice, who care for one another above any personal interest," he listed. 2 great-grandchildren who will grow up knowing this love, and who knows how many more will come. "And most importantly," Mason added, "the example that family isn't about blood, it's about choice, about deciding every day to love and care. You're the ones who made it all special," Dorothy replied modestly. "I just tried to give my best." "And you did," Elizabeth assured her. "You gave your all, every single day, for 30 years. That's why our family is what it is." Dorothy passed away in her sleep on a spring morning at 87. She was in the garden she loved so much, in a rocking chair William had bought for her, with Theo playing at her feet and Luna sleeping in the stroller beside her. Elizabeth was the one who found her when she arrived for Sunday lunch. "She was smiling," Elizabeth told her siblings, "smiling and looking at the garden where we grew up, where we got married, where our family flourished." Dorothy's wake was even larger than William's. In addition to the large family, hundreds of former students, co-workers, neighbors, and people touched by her kindness over the years attended. "Mom transformed everyone who crossed her path," Ethan said in the eulogy. "Not just us, her children, but every child she taught, every person she welcomed, every heart she warmed with her love." "She proved that one person can change the world," Mason added. "Maybe not the whole world, but definitely the world of everyone she loved." Elizabeth unveiled one final piece, a giant mural depicting the family tree, with Dorothy and William as strong roots and all the children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren as blossoming branches. "Mom, you planted a tree of love that will bear fruit for generations," she said as she revealed the mural. "This will stay in the living room forever, reminding our family where our strength comes from." Luke, now a father and respected doctor, gave a tribute that captured everyone's feelings. "Grandma Dorothy taught me that a mother isn't just the one who gives you life, she's the one who teaches you how to live. She brought light into all our lives in different ways, but always with the same unconditional love." The great-grandchildren, still too young to understand, were bid farewell by the family. "Theo, Luna, you were lucky to know the most special great-grandmother in the world," Gabriel said, holding them both. "When you grow up, we'll tell you all her stories." At the cemetery, the entire family gathered around the grave. Ethan placed a white rose on the casket and said, "Mom, thank you for believing you could be our mother even without experience. Thank you for teaching us that love has no limits when it's true. And thank you for saving our family when we needed it most," Mason added. Elizabeth placed a paintbrush on the casket. "Mom, you painted our lives with the most beautiful colors. Now it's up to us to keep painting with the love you taught us." The grandchildren and great-grandchildren, each in their own way, said goodbye to the matriarch who had been the heart of the family for so long. After the burial, the whole family returned home. The garden felt different without Dorothy, but it still carried all the loving energy she had planted there. "What now?" Sophia asked, looking at the house that had always been the center of their lives. "Now we keep going," Ethan answered firmly. "We keep gathering every Sunday, we keep celebrating birthdays, we keep taking care of each other." "That's what she would have wanted," Mason agreed. "For the family to stay united, strong, and full of love." "And that's what we'll do," Elizabeth assured. "For the children, the grandchildren, and the great-grandchildren yet to come. Mom's legacy will live on." In the months that followed, The family grieved together, supporting one another. Dorothy and William's house remained the gathering place, now under the care of Ethan and Jessica, who had moved in. "It's important to keep the tradition," Ethan explained. "The children need a place that belongs to the whole family." Sundays remained sacred. Birthday parties were still celebrated. The children still played in the garden. Everything just as Dorothy would have wished. Theo and Luna grew up hearing stories about the great-grandmother they had met when they were very little. Through the family's tales, they learned about the woman who had turned two orphaned children into a large, loving family. "Grandma Dorothy came here as a cook," Gabriel told his children, "but she became a mother, a grandmother, a great-grandmother, and most of all, the heart of our family." "Why did she do that?" Theo asked when he was 5. "Because she knew love has no limits when it's true," Luna answered, repeating the phrase she had learned as a child. Andrew and Anna, the artistic twins, founded a foundation in their grandparents' name, the William and Dorothy Parker Wilson Foundation, focused on supporting adoptive families and vulnerable children. "Grandpa and Grandma taught us that family goes beyond blood," Andrew explained at the inauguration. "We want to help other families discover that too." The foundation became a success, helping hundreds of families over the years, a tangible way to preserve the legacy of love William and Dorothy had left behind. 10 years after Dorothy's passing, the family had grown even larger. Theo and Luna now had younger siblings. Sophia had become a mother. Andrew married a fellow artist. Anna was engaged. 15 years ago, there were just 3 of us, Ethan reflected during a Sunday lunch, looking at the table full of people. Dad, Mom, and baby Elizabeth. Now we're over 20, counting daughters-in-law, sons-in-law, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. All united by the love they planted, Mason added. No matter how many years pass, that love remains our foundation. Elizabeth, now a grandmother herself, watched her grandchildren playing in the garden. My grandchildren are playing in the same garden where I played as a child. It's amazing how some places are eternal. It's not the places that are eternal, Luke corrected, watching the scene with the gaze of both a doctor and a philosopher. It's the love that lingers in the places. Grandpa William and Grandma Dorothy filled this garden with so much love that it remains here, passed down from generation to generation. End of story. Now tell us what you thought of this story and where you're watching from. If you have something to share with us, leave a sincere comment below. Do you believe love can truly transform a family, as it did for William and Dorothy? We'd love to read your thoughts. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like the video and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other heartwarming stories like this one.